is the home of sim racing leagues. Our management tools allow you to recruit drivers and monitor their ratings and live splits. Find this and more at gridfinder.com. Sign up for free today.
Good evening everyone and welcome back to the World Online Racing YouTube channel for tonight's Esports Invitational. Last time WOR was on your screens, Jan Waltmeier was confirmed to be the champion in Saudi Arabia, and that season 16 came to a close. Dominant stuff from the Flying Dutchman, but with him missing on the grid tonight, we could see maybe a new winner here in Zandvoort, the home circuit of a good amount of drivers on this grid this evening. Tycho Hardy, Duncan Hoffland, and of course Thomas Ronhar should mean the stakes are higher than ever for any Esports Invitational. My name is Dan Field. Once again, I'm being joined by Nathan Richards. Nathan, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing brilliant, Dan, and to be fair, I'm glad that we're back here with T1 with obviously an invitational race and probably the first of many that we can have on this F123 game. But looking at the grid, we've got something which is quite interesting. It's a bit different, isn't it, tonight? We've got a few drivers that we haven't seen here very often and a few drivers making their first races. So I think we've got probably a very interesting race around a very, I'd say, very difficult and technical circuit.
Yeah, absolutely. Zandvoort, of course, very difficult to get absolutely perfect. It's characterized by being built upon the Zandvoort dunes all across. It's beautiful. It's flowing. It moves with the land. Lots of undulation around this fantastic circuit. It's going to make for an amazing race this evening. Before we get into qualifying, let's just bring you over to the game scene so you can have a look at the grid. In the Red Bull, it is Jack West and Chan Akinci. Ferrari is Barry Boromand and Nicholas Longay. Mercedes is Jake Benham. No Jan Ortmeier. He pulled out last minute, unfortunately. We've got Julian Klaffenbach, a driver that I'm not too familiar with in the Mercedes. Alpine is Ruben Pedreño and Kai Pearson. McLaren is Andrei Tarabukin and Sergio Sobrino. Then Alfa Romeo, Thomas Ronhar and Tycho Hardy. Aston Martin, Leo Lund and Duncan Hoffland. Then Haas is Tamas Gao and Bench Jabo Konyi. Alpha Tauri is our host tonight, JST and Isfan Pookie. Then Williams is Will Lewis and driver I've never heard of, Joris Krozen. Nathan, that should be an interesting pairing there, but it's a good mix, I think, of the very top esports guys and then the rising stars in the scene.
Of course, and I think, either way, these drivers might be tier 2 level, or at least they are statistically, but the gaps are so close around such a short track like this. I think we could definitely see a few of them get themselves into the mix around that top 10 and maybe even try and fight for that top 5. We saw that, didn't we, last season with, was it Race Linton at Mexico, was looking a little bit like I suppose you could say, a back marker in terms of what he could do in the race. But then into Mexico, he came through and took pole, which took many of us by surprise. We could definitely see that again with some of these drivers who, yet again, this also might be their favourite track. And even if you're a tier 2 driver and you're on your favourite track, you can still fight with the tier 1 guys.
Yeah, I mean, Zandvoort is a very interesting circuit in many different ways. For me personally, it's one of my favorite to race on. Sorry, not to race on, to hot lap, but to actually race on, it is very difficult. Very narrow circuit, not many overtaking opportunities, but nevertheless, we know that these Tier 1 and Tier 2 guys can put on a show. You might already know that we're in qualifying, but before we head trackside, let's have a look at the results from last time out in Saudi Arabia. We've got Otis Lawrence winning that Grand Prix ahead of Reese Linton in second. He had a difficult season at 16, so it's good to see that Reese ended up on the podium to round off that season. Then Ulash Zildrum came at third at the final spot on the rostrum. We've got in fourth position Tamash Gal, then Ikabena fifth, sixth was Alvaro Caraton, Declan Barrett seventh, eighth Jake Benham, ninth Shanika Clay, and Kian Gondorp rounding out that top 10. And to finish off the season, we had Jarno Otmir, of course, your champion. He absolutely dominated this season. Ishmael Fassi ended up in second ahead of Thomas Ronhar. What a resurgence in the season for Thomas Ronhar, considering he missed the first 4 races, I want to say. Otis Lawrence, with his win, he got close to the back of the top 3, and then Nicholas Longay in 5th on 63. Tom Manley also had a late season resurgence. He finished 6th on 57 points, just 1 point clear of Duncan Hoffland, who's 1 point clear of Jake Benham in 8th, and Alvaro Carlton in 9th on 53, and Luke Smith in 10th position on 49. Yep. But Nathan, now we will have a look at the qualifying as it gets underway. Multiple drivers out on circuit. Who we got our eyes on?
Coming down towards turn 1 is Andrei Tarabukin in the McLaren here tonight, obviously part of the Race Clutch team. Many of these drivers on a set of the intermediates as usual at the start of the Q1 session. Obviously in the long qualifying format, you need to make sure you can save as many tyres as you can for the end. So running a set of the inters at the start means you don't need to waste a set at the start, making sure you've got all your equipment and making sure everything is set up and working correctly. So that's why we see a few drivers out on the intermediates right now. Andre heading through that first sector at 24.9, and Dan Andre, he's a driver that I haven't really seen much at all on this game, to be fair. It's nice to see him back, but I've definitely seen limited of him, I think, on this F123 game.
Yeah, normally he's able to do a decent job when he gets a shot in Tier 1, but he definitely has ghosted in the last season or two, so it's good to see him back on the grid here this evening in Zandvoort, and we'll see how he gets on as he heads down in towards turn number 11. This is a place we could possibly see some moves late up the inside into the chicane. Could definitely make for some very interesting battles as you approach this final sector. Beautiful sequence of corners. The banked turn 14 really is like a speedway circuit here at Zandvoort. I believe that corner is called Ari Lundijk. My mum really loves his son because he was on Bachelor at one point, as Andrei Tarabukin comes across the line with a 111.946. That'll be the first time on the board. Tamash Galdo getting ahead of the McLaren for this evening as all the laps roll in. It's going to be a nice little chill start to the session, Nathan, as no one has decided to fit on a set of the softs yet.
Yes, of course, but there is one driver on a different set of tyres, and that's Shana Kinchy on the set of the wets. Now, we never really see the wet tyres come out at the start of the Q1 session, so it's nice to see a different tyre make an appearance here at the start of Q1, and we'll see what Tom He can do, and of course, he will be a lot slower than those on the intermediate tyres. He'll head up towards the line. It will be around a 1 minute 13, 1 minute 14, 1 minute 15 for Shana Kinchy, pops himself into P6. Thomas Ronhar also out on circuit as well. I'd say the driver I'd probably say would be keeping our eyes on the most here tonight. Obviously, he was third in the championship, only 3 points back from second. So I think he's definitely, by far, statistically, the best driver here on this grid.
Yeah, gotta say that Thomas Ronhar is going to be the favourite to take victory here this evening. We know that both the Ferraris, Barry Burman and Nicholas Longay, they like to start at the back quite often. I know that Jake Benham and Will Lewis, the likes of them, are all going to try and take the fight to Thomas Ronhar today, but I'd say it is the Dutchman's race to lose on home soils. He comes across the line and oh dear, he will spin out his Sauber car as he'll almost hit the wall on the inside. It was a bit of a hairy situation for him. Luckily, he's going to keep the car going and head back in to the pit lane. Give us a little drift show as well as he slides his way through that first corner. 7 out of 10 from me.
I think it was a very good job. I think it's a bit risky, isn't it? Especially as he heads through in towards turn 3. Ooh. Well, that didn't go quite good to plan at all, did it, there for Thomas, but I'm sure he's having a good job of it, and I'm sure that's what we saw. I think, was it Joseph Float doing multiple times in the past at the start of the season when we used to have those long waits between that kind of into to soft running qualifying, and he's going through turn 7, that wouldn't be a good idea to send it for a drift, because I'm sure you'd find yourself in the wall, and at that speed, it would most likely be a tyre popping off rather than a bit of a scrape of your front wing as he heads into turn 9, and yet again showing us a nice, beautiful drift. And oof, that was a 9 out of 10 for me, that one.
Oh, can he link it up for the through the 2 corners? I think he's gone off the circuit there. They're going to lose marks there from me, unfortunately, Thomas Ronhard, but he'll head now in towards the final sector. What's it going to be? I think maybe he's got a little bit of catching up to do if he wants to catch up with Joseph Float, because Joseph really was a pro at it. But Thomas Ronhard will head through the final corner. If he can pull off a little bit of a drift through turn number 14, I'd be mighty impressed, but no, he's just going to put the foot flat to the floor and head in to the pit lane, and that will mark the end of the intermediate runs. Kai Pearson, the fastest man out on circuit at the minute. Do not take these times with, take it with a, not just a pinch of salt, a massive mound of it, because these are not representative whatsoever. We do have an AlphaTauri out on circuit, JST, a driver that I never really get to commentate on. I feel like if I'm doing Tier 1, he'll be racing in Tier 2, and if I was in PSGL F2, he'd be racing in F3. So JST, a driver, typically, Nathan, I don't get to see much of.
Indeed, and I think he'll do a brilliant job tonight. Obviously, last season in Tier 2, I got to commentate over him, and he won the championship in quite a good form. It was, the points between him and Yaris going into the final round were the same. It was, I think, about 131 or something they both had a P. So it was a brilliant race, and Jay did take the championship at the end. He took back-to-back victories in Tier 2 at the end of the season. So I think he's a driver definitely to maybe try and bet for a top 10 here tonight if you can play his card right in the qualifying stage. And obviously around here, it's quite difficult to really make moves in the race, so you've got to kind of do a lot of it here in qualifying. Obviously, he's the first one out on the circuit, on the soft tyres, so he'll be setting the benchmark lap time for these drivers on the soft. And of course, behind him is Julian Klaffenbach, obviously a driver we all know very well, obviously racing now in the RHG team. And I think he'll also be doing a very good job here tonight. Hopefully a top 10 for him if his internet doesn't make issues. Because as I was saying earlier to Dan, in the past 4 races or so I've commentated over Julian, the internet has caused an issue for either him or someone else.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for everyone's sake tonight. Julian Klaffenbach doesn't have any internet issues. One key thing to note for this evening is there is no safety car enabled. So no matter what happens, we're going to be green flag racing from start to finish here. So if anything happens, it's not going to have massive implications. If he just crashes into the wall or something, fingers crossed he doesn't take anyone out. I think that would be a real shame. But let's turn away from the Mercedes and have a look at the AlphaTauri heading through turn number 3. JST donning this car here this evening. He will swoop through this first sector. Absolutely beautiful part of the circuit. Completely flat as he does a 23.801 in sector 1. We'll see how he takes the double right-hander. Nathan, if you get on these curves, he could be right into the gravel trap off the left-hand side. You've got to be very careful around this circuit because it's really an icon on the Formula 1 calendar. It really characterizes that 1980s racing. You don't have masses of runoff area. It's the track and the grass, and that is one thing I absolutely adore about Zandvoort.
Of course, and I think the curbs have been made really difficult on purpose, because if you grab a curb, you're going to be pulled along the whole way of it, and it can happen there as well at Ari Lines. You can go straight on because you can't get your car off it, and once that happens, there's nothing you're going to do to stop it. So it's very difficult as well. So that's why going wide is something you don't want to do. And the first lap time will be 108.125 there from JSD, and we'll see what Julian Klaffenbach can do. He's heading through into turn 10 now with the DRS, of course, down towards turn number 12 at that chicane. We'll see what he can do into here. Just breaking late around that 100 metre ball. Throws the car in. If you can, use a little bit of the curb without using too much on the exit. You want to try and get back on the power nice and early. Then in towards Ari Lindike, the final corner on the circuit, turn 14. Around here, just try and clip the curb if you can. Try not to run too wide. Up towards the line. What will it be here for Julian? Will he topple JSD's time? To the line he goes, and he won't. It's a 108.9, so what's that? 8/10 off the back of Jay. He must have made a big mistake somewhere in that middle sector, I think.
Yeah, Julian's struggling on that lap. I think it's got something to do with the helmet car combo. He's driving a Mercedes with a Max Verstappen Red Bull helmet. So very interesting to see. But now we have all 20 drivers out on circuit. It's a good thing that neither JST or Julian Klaffenbach are actually still on a run at the minute. Otherwise, they'd have a whole heap of traffic right in front of their visors. But let's see who is next out out on circuit and will be the first one to set us on the, well, I guess not really the first one to set us on the lap, but the third driver to set us on a run. It is Tamás Gal. Nathan, we speak very highly of the Hungarian driver in the Haas and how he is able to qualify so well, and I think tonight is going to be no exception as he will take now to the first corner.
Definitely, I think what we see from Tamás, his main issue is in the race. He tends to kind of bog down a little bit once we get through those opening few laps. Qualifying is always stellar here from the driver. So I think tonight, if he can get his qualifying up to form like he normally is in the race, he might have a bit of a better chance. Because there's less of those front runners, typically what we see here in tonight's lobby. So maybe it could be a podium or even fight for victory here for Tamás Gal as he heads in towards turn 7. Then before flicking it back to the right at turn number 8. And I think around this circuit it's a little bit short. And he shows us what you don't do at turn number 8. And luckily, keeping it out of the barriers in terms of DNF in the car. But he did have a bit of a tap on the rear. And well, that's a perfect explanation, Dan, of what you don't do at turn 8. Because that curb, there's nothing he could have done there to stop it.
That's what we said, Nathan, isn't it? We said that if you go on the curb off the outside line, you'll end up in a spin, and somehow he has kept that rear left attached on his Haas. I mean, I thought for sure he was not going to be completing this qualifying session, but luckily for him, he's going to be able to keep on going. We'll have to recuperate and come back into the pit lane. His teammate and fellow countryman Ben Connie is up next towards the line. He will be the first man set us on a run in this sort of gaggle of cars. Then he goes second fastest. JST looking untriumphable at the minute. However, let's have a look at Barry Burman. Two of the Aston Martins also coming to the line. Leo Lund in P3 and his teammate Duncan Hofland, the first man into the 1:07s. Brilliant time from him there. What about Barry Burman as he approaches the line? It's a 108.155, good enough for P4 at the minute. Sergio Sabrino in P5 and his teammate Andrei Tarabukin into P7.
Of course, they're very nice opening laps from JSC and Joris Krozen, our two front runners in Tier 2, sitting very comfortable here at the start of Q1 here in our Tier 1 lobby. We can see Nicolas Longuet coming through towards the line. What can he set on the board? Will be P2 there for the Frenchman. Then we've got a few more cars coming through. Jake Benham heading in towards that final corner now. His team out of Siano Otmir not here tonight, unfortunately. As you see, Kai Pearson go to second. Jack West into the top 5, along with Isan Pookie onto the front row for Q1. We have Jake Benham coming up to the line. He goes fastest there with a .938, 70 thousandths faster than Duncan Hofland. And then we have Ruben Progenio into P3 for the Alpine team. Very nice start to qualifying for him. And I did say that was very good from Jay Norris, but they've dropped from being P2 and P3 now to 9th and 10th just after a couple of runs.
Yeah, but ahead of Barry Burman, I don't think that's anything to scoff at. So fair play to both JST and Joris Krozen getting themselves into the top 10 for the time being. The 5 drivers in the drop zone at the minute are Tycho Hardy, Leo Lund, Chanakinchi, Julian Klaffenbach, and Tamás Gal. Of course, Tamás not being able to get a lap time on the board. He'll have to come into the pit lane. If he's eliminated in Q1, that is going to be a big blow, and will definitely disrupt some of the conversations with 5 minutes left to go for pole position later here this evening. But Jake Benham and Duncan Hofland, so far the quickest drivers in Q1 at the minute, the only two in the 1:07s. However, Nathan, there's a whole plethora of drivers from 3rd all the way down to 8th who are in the 1:08.0. So this is a very tight qualifying session.
It is indeed, and Thomas Ronhard thinks his 1:08.057 is safe enough to see him through towards Q2, and I think that is probably fine. I think anyone around that top 7, top 8 probably could afford to retire the car, but any lower, I'd say you definitely want to get yourself out and get a second lap underway. Obviously, because you can see the likes of Tycho Den, they're very far off the front runners, but they're only 3/10 apart themselves, so they're not that far away from each other in that drop zone. So the main fight for those guys could be just that fight for 16th down to 19th. I think Tamás Gal, once he can get himself a lap time in, I think he could comfortably sit himself up and around that top 5, maybe even higher bin, as a couple of people won't get their final runs and take advantage of the best track possible. But I think lots of pressure here on the likes of Will Lewis, Spencer Bakonia and Andrei Tarabukin, who definitely want to see themselves through into Q2. I think, if anything, many drivers here, based on what this grid looks like, will be aiming to get through to Q3.
Yeah, I mean, Will Lewis, Ben Connie, and Andrei Tarabukin, and Tycho Hardy, for that matter, they've got some experience in Tier 1, some more than others. I mean, Ben Connie, we saw him multiple times throughout the course of Season 16 racing in Tier 1. If I'm not mistaken, he had a full-time seat in the Haas, so it would be a big loss if he is eliminated at the hands of a couple of F2 Tier 2 drivers here this evening. But Ben Connie, we know how handy he is in qualifying. Both of the Haas chances I would expect to get into Q2 and probably into Q3, the pair of them. So I have to wait and see, as the first driver heading out onto the circuit is one of the Red Bulls. It is Chanakinchi. However, Will Lewis just following in behind him as well. Nathan, these are the drivers. They need a time, a good time on the board. I think minimum 108.0s.
Of course, and I think Chanakinchi is a driver I don't think we expect to take pole and win, because yet again, he's one of those, he kind of pops back every now and then if he's needed to drive. But I don't think he even drives the game that much himself. I don't think he's got that many hours on the game. So it's nice to see him back here, having a go here in WR Tier 1, and we'll see what he can do tonight in the Red Bull, of course. And then a few more cars heading out as well. Julian Klaffenbach out on circuit, and Tamas Gell joining him, those three in the drop zone. Then we've got everyone ninth down, got to be heading out onto circuit. I presume Jake and Duncan will think their lap times are safe, which means the fight for the elimination zone is going to be between possibly 11 drivers, because even though the likes of Jay and Joris aren't in any trouble now, once all those below improve, they will then get forced into a position where they need to improve. So I think we could see quite a tight battle here for the bottom 5.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see, as now the session is beginning to draw to a close. Interesting to see that Duncan Hoffland hasn't actually decided to retire. There's Barry Burman getting a 5-place grid penalty, with the rumoured F1 Esports Series starting in April. You'd got to hope that they are going to fix this issue, otherwise they'll have to be restarting a lobby every single time. Here we go then. Chanakinchi is going to head through the final 2 corners at 13 and 14. Oh dear, Barry Burman with another one. If he gets one more, Nathan, he could get himself disqualified from qualifying. So Barry's got to pick up the pace a little bit as Chanakinchi now approaches Tarzan Bot.
Of course, well, it's the perfect way to eliminate a rival from qualifying, I suppose, if you're the Hasu sitting behind him. But we can see Chanakinchi now heading through that first sector. We'll see what he can do on his final run here in Q1. Looking very quick so far through that first opening 3 corners. Through now in towards this bit of a roller coaster section. Turns 4 through towards turns 7 and 8. We'll see what he can do in that first sector, up by 2.5 tenths of a second. That, Dan, is the type of improvement he needs to get yourself to, hopefully, out of that bottom 5.
Yeah, decent stuff for the time being for Chanakinchi. A little bit squirrely on the outside curbing, but through turn number 9 he looks to have recovered his Red Bull. Now in through turn number 10, you got to nail this exit down this DRS straight, open up that rear wing and approach turn number 11, braking just at the curbing as it starts on the left hand side. Chanakinchi up by 5 tenths of a second. This is going to be good enough to put himself around about P14 at the minute, so it's not a world beater of a lap time from the Red Bull driver. But through now the final sector, can he improve on this lap and get himself potentially into Q2 as he approaches the line now? What's it going to be for Chanakinchi into P8? A nice improvement in that final sector, and he'll jump ahead of his teammate Jack West. What about Will Lewis edging ever so closer to that drop zone? He's on a 108.212, the same time as Sergio Sabrino at the minute, approaching the line now. What's it going to be for the Williams driver? P5, decent effort, and definitely secures himself into the next session. JST into the pit lane. Yeah, that is a worrying sign, I gotta say, from him there. Tamas Gell manages to slot himself into second position. Julian Klaffenbach unfortunately eliminated from qualifying as Joris Krozen. How about that from a lap time into P4? Brilliant stuff from him there. One of the Aston Martins of Leo Lund invalid on his lap and is eliminated from qualifying. What about Andrei Tarabukin as he will approach the line now? Can he get himself out the drop zone? He'll jump ahead of Ben Abercrombie, but unfortunately stays in P16 and out of this session. Tycho Hardy will split the pair of them, and that is P17 for him. The bottom 5 are all confirmed. That brings Q1 to an end.
Indeed, and JSD so close to elimination now. I think he was 15th, and we still had 5 drivers left to cross the line, being Leo, Tycho, and Andre. So very nice there from JSD to get himself through to Q2, but very, very close. And yet again, we could have even saw some of those guys like Jack West and Nico possibly have the risk of going out if some of those below got those key improvements in. So very, very close in the bottom parts of the grid, but very nice to see Joris up into P4 there for the Williams team here tonight as well. We've got Sergio Sereno in P9, Will Lewis in the top 8. Very nice to see those guys near the top, and I think that shows, Dan, that around this circuit, the track evolution at the end of a session is exponential, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, but Jake Benham's time still untouchable at the top of the session. If you remember back to Zandvoort in the regular season, I'm pretty sure Jake was either on pole position or in P2, so it seems like he really does enjoy this circuit, and we'll see how it works out for him in race trim this evening. Of course, his teammate Jarno Otmir took victory around this circuit, but it is Jake Benham topping Q1 ahead of Tamas Gal, just 6,000 between the pair of them. Duncan Hoffland in P3 and Joris Krozen, really great lap time from him in P4. Ruben Pedreño, his initial time was good enough for P5, and Barry Burmand sits just 2,000 back from him in 6th. It's Van Pookie is 7th, and 8th is Will Lewis. Sergio Sobrino 9th, 10th is Kai Pearson. Then Thomas Ronhart and Nicholas Longue close to being eliminated in 11th and 12th, but they're going to be able to advance into the next session. Chanakinchi in at 13th, 14th Jack West, JST just about surviving. Tabukin, Hardy, Zaberkoni, Klaffenbach and Lund all eliminated from this session. And Nathan, incredibly fine margins. The gap between P1 and P16, less than 2/10 of a second.
Of course, it's very close. And then going into Q2 now, where we see, our 15 best, it's narrowed down once again. And anyone could go out here now. I think even after the first laps are set, no one can afford to not go out at the end. I think that is a situation they'll all be having to go right to the end and pushing as hard as they can. You got 15 very quick drivers here. I think there's only a couple of names which you could expect to see out in this drop zone. Apart from that, everyone here deserves to be thrown to Q3, and I definitely think we'll see some surprise names. So one mistake could definitely cost someone their qualifying here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Now as Q2 will get underway, we'll bring us back over to the game scene now, and you can see pretty much everyone aside from Jack West is coming out onto the circuit. Quite ironic that the game automatically makes me spectate one of the only drivers who doesn't decide to exit on to the circuit. Let's have a look at Duncan Hoffland. A great qualifying one from him. His initial lap time was good enough for P3 at the end of Q1. Could he potentially be the leading Dutchman in this Grand Prix tonight? Oh my
It
God.
could be, as we can see. I think Kai Pearson wanted to get on with it there. He overtook around the outside of Duncan, as then Thomas Rothar went up the inside. Oof, that would have been his go there for the Aston Martin. But Kai Pearson, I think he's got his intentions clear. He wants to be the first one to set a lap time here at the start of Q2, and that is either the fact he feels most comfortable being at the front, or he wants a bit of airtime from us here on the stream, Dan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was a little bit of a hairy moment from Kai Pearson there, but I mean, he wants to lead the field. We didn't actually see him all too much in Q1, so it'd be nice to have a look at the Alpine. I know that himself and Ruben Pedreño, the two teammates this evening, they were both able to do a very nice lap time initially. I think the pair of them retired with just one lap on the board, so we'll watch Kai Pearson. We'll give him the screen time that he so desires. He'll head through Ari Lundijk at turn at number 14 now, off the exit. A beautiful banked corner heading in towards turn at number 1. Of course, one of the only corner names along this circuit, Nathan, that I'm confident enough to try and pronounce, Tarzan Bocht, as he'll approach now turn number 2 and 3, which just have such complex names. It's not worth me butchering them.
Yeah, I've tried multiple times to try and learn the corner names before a race, and no, it's never ended well. I know Tarzan Bocht, I think it's Hansen Bocht or something down at the turn 12 chicane, and then obviously Ari Luyendijk at the final corner. Apart from that, I don't attempt to say the names, because Dutch and German names, I know they're very similar, and I could never ever get my head wrapped around them at all. So I just use turn on and turn 10 here at the end of this second set, which I actually believe, Dan, is just called turn on and turn 10, isn't it, in Dutch?
I don't know.
Box 9 and box 10, I think it's called.
Oh, well, that's handy enough then. I guess I just looked at the track map. I saw a whole jumble of letters, and I really didn't want to try and offend a bunch of Dutch people. I know that a lot of our community and a lot of these drivers are all Dutch, so I don't want to ruin and desecrate their beautiful language. As now Kai Pearson heads through the final corner. We'll see what the initial lap time in Q2 is for the Alpine drivers. They'll approach the line at 108.383 as expected, Nathan. A lot of these times are all going to be on a scrub set of tyres.
Of course, we can see there Duncan Hoffler coming through 108.420, Tamas Gal there at 108.7, Joris Krozen into P5 yet again, doing good signs at the start of Q2. JS pops himself into P6. What about Ruben Pedreño into P2? The Alpine goes. Sergio Sobrino comes through as Nicholas Longue goes fastest with a 108.064. Sobrino into P4. Then we've got a few more cars coming through. I believe that was, who would that have been there? That would have been, was it Jake Benham going into second there, Dan?
It was Chanakinchi into P9. Coming across the line, then Barry Burmand has just set a 108.253, good enough for P5 at the beginning of Q2. A few drivers yet set a lap at the minute. Jack West, Isfan Pookie and Will Lewis all deciding to stay in the pit lane, but once we get them out on circuit, we'll get a real feel for how this session is going to unfold. Once everyone straps on a fresh set of tyres as well, that's when we're going to see more and more 1 minute 7s come out onto the board.
Indeed, it will be. And well, we'll see what the drivers in that drop zone can do at the moment. Obviously, Jay and Tamasha, I do believe they're on a set of the used tyres along with probably those 8th or maybe even 7th down. So obviously they're going to be a little bit off the pace at the moment. But once they get a new set of tyres on, they should be quicker than ever and hopefully breaking in towards the 107s once again here in this session. The fastest lap time, I believe, was a 107.938 back in Q1. So we're not that too far off it with Nicholas Longay's time. But obviously with the track evolution coming in, we should hopefully be a little bit higher than that when we go through in towards the ending parts or the middle parts of Q2. As we can see that the bottom, Julian Claffinbot leaving the session. I noticed another few drivers did that earlier on, so hopefully they haven't got issues. I know Leo Lund did it earlier on as well, so fingers crossed they haven't got issues.
I just know that Julian Claffinbach has got the reputation from what you say, so a little bit worried as we've got now 10 minutes left in this session. I think it's a good thing then that he got eliminated in Q1, otherwise he'd be ruining a lot of guys' qualifying sessions. Now a few more drivers looking to exit out onto the circuit. For some reason, I'm not moving the camera, it's actually spectating everyone coming into the pit lane. Very interesting. I didn't think that was actually a feature of F1 23. I mean, Nathan, you can't see it, but it's essentially just scrolled me through the top 5. It's it's put me to Sergio Sabrino, then to Barry Burmand. Now I've changed it myself to Duncan Hoffland, who's the first man out on circuit for the first proper runs in Q2.
Of course, I think Duncan Hoffman, from what we saw back in Q1, I think he's definitely a driver that we should be looking for pole position. Obviously, like Sir Jake Benham also looking very strong still here at the start of Q2 like he did at the start of Q1. But obviously, like Sir Joris as well, looked very strong in Q1 also in P10 at the moment on the used tyres, so he could also be looking to see himself through towards Q3. So I think we've got a very interesting session upon us, and we can see there one of the Hasses, that with Tamas Gal just passing the Aston Martin once again, this time down at turn 7 to get himself to the front of this train. Then behind him will be JSD, who's also looking to get on with his qualifying a little bit more than the likes of Duncan Hoffland. I've noticed that Duncan always goes a little bit slower on his outlaps compared to other drivers, so maybe that preparation is what makes him always near the top of qualifying, and which also makes some of the drivers a little bit further down. But I'm sure Tamas Gal isn't worried at all about how he takes his outlap, because he's always quick in qualifying either way. Now, then we have all the drivers out on an outlap. The midpoint of Q2, for some drivers the first proper runs, for some it's their first runs alone here in Q2. We could have quite a mix-up going through now towards this final part of Q2.
Yeah, it's going to be really difficult to keep track of for the next 2 minutes or so once everyone gets onto their lap, then finishes their runs. But Tamas Gal will be the first one to put us on a lap here for the second part of Q2. Tamas already at this point in qualifying has not got a great relationship with Zandvoort. Of course, his first initial run in Q1 was not good enough at all. He spun it down at turn number 8. Let's hope for his sake that he's able to master this circuit on this attempt as he flies through the first few corners, where Daniel Ricciardo broke his wrist last summer. That was a dark day for me, but now as he heads in towards turn number 7, I believe this is, the beautiful swinging right-hander. You saw how he sort of darted to the left just before turning into the apex of the corner. Very smart move from Tamas, and that is the difference between a really good qualifier and just an average guy, because he's using all the circuit, utilizing every single resource that he can to get his lap absolutely perfect, as now in towards the final part of the lap, up already by 0.6 of a second. He's on for around about 108.1. It's going to be an alright time from him there, but if he finds a good improvement in sector 3, we could see a 1 minute 7 from him.
Of course, he found very good improvements in that first sector, nearly half a second up in that first sector alone. What can he do as he heads up towards the line for Tamas Gal? It will be up to the top with a 107.902, our fastest lap time so far here in qualifying. A few more cars left to come through to set their next lap times. Duncan Hoffman goes to the top with a 107.884. What about Will Lewis? Where can he go in the Williams as he heads up towards the line? Goes up into P1 with a 107.7 for Will Lewis. As we can see some more drivers coming through. We've got Joris up into P4 there with a .961. Then we've got the two Red Bulls coming through. That'll be Chana Kinchi first. What can he do in the Red Bull? Currently in the drop zone. He goes up into second. What can Jack West do? Can he get himself at the drop zone? He can into P7. That now puts more pressure on folks. So Barry and Thomas in 12th and 13th. Already, Dan, the track is evolving so quickly.
Yeah, lots of times coming out. You know me, I'm a big Will Lewis fan, so it's brilliant to see him in P1 at the minute. For how much longer, though, as Jake Benham will come across the line. And oh dear, disappointing lap from the All-Star there. What about the two Ferraris as they approach the line? Nicolas Longuet in P3. Thomas Ronard dethroning the Frenchman. And then it's Van Pookie taking revenge. Let's see what Barry Burman can do as Ruben Pedreño comes across the line. Goes 4,000 slower than Will Lewis. What about Barry as he'll approach the start-finish line now? So it's 107.822. But it is Will Lewis, the quickest in the session at the minute. I said on Twitter that you get to come here and watch some of the esports greats, and we are watching greatness in the flesh. Will Lewis, a fantastic lap from him there. He'll head back into the pit lane. Gotta say, Nathan, I think the top two, they could be very, very confident they've already secured a spot in Q3.
They could, because well, to be fair, they're only a tenth and a half off that drop zone, so it might be close, but I think maybe they could just go for a bit of a risk and not set a lap. But obviously, if they have spare tyres, they might as well go for it and just see what they can do. But obviously, Tamas Gal at the start of these runs was first. He's now down to P9. That shows how quick the track has evolved, and that is definitely worrying signs for him only being about half a tenth back from that drop zone. Obviously, the gap down to P13 from P11 is itself only around 200ths of a second. So Kai, Joris and Jack have got a lot of pressure on themselves, along with the likes of Sergio and Tamash, who are just only a little bit ahead of them. And obviously further back, Jake Benham. Big surprise to see him down in P14 after what was a very good Q1, a very good first run in Q2. And of course, JSD, I don't think even got any improvements on that opening lap he set earlier on, hence why he's still down in 15th on a 108.646. But I did speak to Jay before on Twitch, and he said that his hopes tonight were just to try and get through towards Q2.
Yeah, well, he's done that fine, and he now has a chance at making his way into Q3. He did come into the pit lane at the end of his run, so it seemed like he wasn't happy with what he did, and so he decided to just pull it into the pit lane, save the tyres a little bit more. Maybe he can use them in the race. We'll have to wait and see then if JST is able to go further than his expectations and pop himself into Q3. Very fine margins at the minute in qualifying. Will Lewis will take no further part in Q2. I'd imagine the same for Ruben Pedreño, maybe Chanakinchi, maybe Barry as well. But with how close these margins are, I don't actually know how many people really can retire. We saw the top 8 retire in Q1, and then Jack West ended up 14th position. So it's you're playing with fire if you're retiring early in Q2. But we've got 3.5 minutes left to go. Everyone from second downwards, Nathan, they're all deciding to just hold fire at the minute. No one's retired so far aside from Will. We'll see what happens in the next few minutes or so.
Indeed, and that might be a bit of a a bit too opportunistic here from Will Lewis if this doesn't pay off, but I'm sure he could definitely make it work, as Chanakinchi in third does go out onto circuit in the Red Bull. Behind him will be Nicolas Longuet in 7th, and a few more cars coming out as well. One of the AlphaTauris of Barry and Ruben think they're safe on their 107.7, 107.8. As we can see, Van Pookie coming out as well, and then obviously all those in the bottom 5 also venturing out on towards the circuit. So, has Barry played this right, though? Because he's only a 10th off the drop zone. I think Barry could be very high risk here, and I think he's probably I don't think he's played it right there.
It's going to be very fine, but we'll have to wait and see what Barry Burman can do. I mean, it's very scary for him to be in P7, P4. I saw the 7 in his name. To be in P4 at the minute and retired from the session when there's so many drivers within half a tenth of him at the moment. It's Van Pookie, Thomas Ronhart, and Nicolas Longuet. All of them just need half a tenth, 500ths of a second, and they're jumping ahead of Barry Burman. And with how many drivers that we know are good in qualifying, like Duncan Hoffland, Tamash Gal, Jake Benham, who are in that lower end of the top 10 and in the drop zone if you're Jake Benham, it's going to be very scary for Barry Burman. But here we are then, the final part of Q2. Jake Benham wasting no time. He'll jump himself to the head of the train.
Of course, we'll see what Jake can do here on this opening or this final lap here at Q2. He needs to find a good lap time in his from the from getting out of the drop zone. He's only about a tenth, but he needs to get probably a good 2 tenths on top of that to keep himself safe here in Q2. I think he's looking for around a 1 minute 7.7 to see himself secure through in towards Q3. So we'll see what Jake can do as he heads through into the final corners as well. As we can see further along, Chanakinchi on his lap, he's in P3 though, so he should be relatively safe on that lap time. Let's see what Jake Bennett can do as he heads down in towards turn 1 once again on a 108.0. We saw him in the 107s in Q1, so we know he's got pace quicker than that lap time. He must have just made a grave mistake on that open run earlier on as he heads through in towards that first set. So looking good so far into turn 3. Down to the inside, gets back on the pounds nice and early, runs the car wide on the exit to get the best traction on the exit of the corner. Heading through now in towards this roller coaster section, up towards turn number 7. Pulls it to the right as he improves by 0.5 of a second. So that makes me think, Dan, the mistake he made, he was in this middle sector.
Yeah, it's a good start to the lap for Jake Benham. Purple in sector 1, now in towards turn number 8 and 9. A very nice run from Jake Benham at the minute. What can he do then as he approaches this back straight hill, right on the curb, off the exit, and then open up that DRS heading down in towards turn number 11. What's the improvement in sector 2? He's up by just over a tenth, less than a tenth and a half at the minute of an improvement. It's not going to be good enough at all to get himself he's not actually that far off the back, so maybe this is a good lap from Jake Benham. I thought he was a second off the entire field, but no, I just can't read as now Jake Benham comes across the line. What's it going to be for the all-star quickest of them all by a full tenth of a second? Nowhere near it, going to the top. Yeah, shut up, Dan, as now Nicholas Longe comes to line at 107.788 already. 2 fantastic improvements, is knocking Barry Burman further and further down the order, now into P8. Sergio Sobrino next up to come across the line. It's P5 for the Spaniard. What about Duncan Hoffman in 13th position? Barry Burman now on the precipice of being eliminated, maybe at the hands of Joris Krozen, unfortunately eliminated from this session. Jack West will be up next, and he will unfortunately be in P14. What about Istvan Pukki to eliminate his Ferrari compatriot? And Barry Burman out in Q2. Thomas Ronhart up towards the line on 107.773. No one is touching Jake Benham's time there. A fantastic lap from him, but the 5 drivers eliminated in Q2. Janikinchi, Barry Burman, JST, Jack West, and Joris Krozen. Wow, I mean, Barry Burman, we said that it was very touch and go as to whether he'd actually make it into that session. Have a look at those margins, Nathan. Incredible how close that Q2 was.
Of course, I think it was around a tenth there, separating, I think it was P6 down towards P14. We'll see in a second what the gaps were once we've wheeled the Red Bull back in towards a pit lane on my screen either way. And we can see it was Jake Benham who goes to the top there with a 107.695, nearly a tenth clear at Thomas Ronhart in second. Istvan Pukki is in third position, Nicholas Longe in fourth, Will Lewis in the top 5 ahead of Ruben Progenio, who those two didn't find an improvement on their laps, but they didn't need it anyway, as Sergio Sobrino is in 7th, Kai Pearson 8th, Duncan Hoffman 9th, and Tamas Gale just surviving the elimination zone by 0.02 of a second to Chana Kinchi, who is only 4 thousandths ahead of Barry Burman in 12th, and JSC in 13th place, Jack West in 14th, and Joris Krozen in 15th place. But there are 2 tenths separating the top 14 in that session, and only a tenth and a half separating P5 down towards P13.
I mean, that is incredible how close that Q2 session was. We know that Zandvoort, a very quick circuit. It's less than 70 seconds along a lap through here. One of the quickest laps on the F1 calendar. I think maybe only seconded by Austria, if I'm not mistaken. There's no other tracks. Maybe Brazil, I think, is a bit quicker than this circuit. Regardless, this is a very quick lap, and that is why we're seeing so many close lap times. And it's so unfortunate that Chanakinchi, Nathan, misses out by just 2 thousandths of a second. I mean, to think how small amount of time that is, it's almost unfathomable.
Of course, and obviously Barry as well. He was only 6 thousandths off that drop zone, so very close call between themselves and Tamas Gale, who does make it through in towards Q3, and he hasn't had the most, the most cleanest ride through in towards Q3. He had a bit of trouble in Q1, had a bit of trouble, of course, in Q2, and then does make it through in towards Q3. Very lucky, I suppose you could say, at this current time. But now he's in this final part of qualifying. He can kind of settle down a bit, I suppose, and get ready and get geared up to go out for these next probably 2 or maybe maximum 3 runs here in this final part of qualifying, and try himself to try and take pole position. But so far, no one can really touch Jake Benham. Was quickest in Q1, quickest in Q2 by nearly a tenth, when the whole field was barely separated by 0.2 of a second. This shows, how many levels that Jake has got ahead of everyone so far here in this session. But we've got we've got one car out on circuit. That'll be Ruben Progenio in second at the moment. Obviously, was in P5 in the first part of qualifying, so we'll see what he can do on this opening run. Maybe he can try and fight for pole tonight. It'd be nice. We've seen him near the top of multiple times, but isn't always consistently at the top.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see then. We've got all 10 drivers who could be fighting for pole position. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you are going for. Nathan, you got to make your prediction now whilst there's no lap times on the board. Who you going for pole?
You know what? I'll go with Duncan Hoffland. I know who you're going to pick, Dan.
I think there's only one name that really it could be for me. I think I'll leave that up to interpretation to everyone in the live chat. But he's driving a car that begins with W, and his name begins with W as well. So I'll give you that little hint. But Ruben Pedreño then headed, Super Gaming, he gets it. Will Lewis for pole position. We'll see what Ruben Pedreño can do as he gets his initial lap on the board. Really interesting to see that he is the only driver, Nathan, out on circuit at the minute.
Yeah, he's taking it a little bit out of sync to the others, but we'll see if this can work out for him. The middle sector, I didn't see what his first sector was, but we'll see what the middle sector is here for the Alpine, and we'll see what he can do as he heads through now in towards turns 9 and turns 10. Obviously getting it back to the left before getting prepared for another little bit of a DRS zone down in towards turn number 12. We'll see what he can do in this middle sector, which ends now. It'll be a 47.1 for Ruben as he heads now down in towards that chicane. Then he'll get back on the pen nice and early on the exit to prepare himself for Road Line Dyke, turn number 14, the final corner on this very short circuit, and he'll head through there on the bounce corner back to the left-hand side and keeps himself as much to the grass as he can without going onto the grass. And he'll venture back into the pit lane, and that will be his lap time finish. So we won't set a lap, but at least he got his... he saw what Q3 was like, he saw what the grip was like on the circuit, so he can kind of predict what he's going to do in the next part of qualifying. That's probably not true, I'm just making that up because I can't think of any other reason why he'd go back into the pits, because that wasn't bad, he didn't make a mistake, so...
Yeah, it might have been on a scrub set of tyres. Maybe he just decided to get a feel for the circuit. I think you might actually be in the ballpark range of what he was planning to do. But now everyone else coming out onto the circuit. The first man was Duncan Hoffland, now overtaken by Tamas Gal, who, gotta say, really hasn't lit the world on fire like he normally does in qualifying. He was second fastest in Q2, but for the life of me, I can't remember where he finished in in Q1. For the life of me, I can't remember where he finished in Q2, so we'll have to wait and see what Tamas Gal can bring to the table in Q3. Is he going to be able to replicate his previous performances in WOR this season, or is he going to fall short once again here at Zandvoort? We'll have to wait and see, as now 9 drivers are out onto the circuit. No one is giving their predictions in the live chat, so if you are listening to me, if my mic is turned on, please do let us know who you think is going to be taking pole position. You've still got time to get your predictions in, due to the fact that no one's actually set a lap time at the minute. So yeah, get your predictions in. We'll read some of them out soon.
Of course, I could see a little bit earlier on, Cameron's dad's here in supporting for Kai, but let's go Kai, and then afterwards put well done Kai. So I think he's going to be voting Kai Pearson for pole, and then Jason saying Thomas Ronhard for pole, Goat Hard as he calls him in the chat.
That's a surprise.
I think Thomas is your best odds, isn't he? He's your 1-to-1 odds in terms of getting pole position here tonight. He's like Max Verstappen, but with a different name and in a different car. But he's around his home circuit. Does that give him any more luck? Surely Thomas can't have any more luck than he already does on most races.
Yeah, I mean, if it's the NBA Rookie of the Year race, he's Victor Wembanyama at the minute, because he is an absolute lock. Not a lock for pole, but he's definitely got the best.
Who's that, Dan?
Victor Wembanyama. He's the next coming of... well, I don't know. He's just the best rookie since LeBron James at the minute. I just wanted to throw in an NBA reference in there. I feel like it's been a while since I've really dropped one in. But yeah, here is Tamas Gal then through the final few corners. Maybe for pole position, this could be like your Brandon Miller or something in the Rookie of the Year race. As off the exit of the final corner, Tamas Gal up towards the line of 108.053. We'll see how that stacks up to all the other runs beginning now.
Of course, and then Ruben Pedreño, I think, made a mistake on his lap because he didn't get a lap time set, even though we did cross the line. We got Will Lewis to the line. He goes up to provisional pole with a 107.698. Brilliant lap time there from Will Lewis. Duncan Hoffland goes into third place. I think he's preparing for a lap rather than setting one. Kai Pearson goes up into second there with a 0.718. What about Sergio Sobrino? Can he try and take provisional pole? No, he will take provisional third place at the moment. We can see coming through into the final corner, it will be Thomas Ronhart. He'll be looking to the best odds to take pole tonight. Can he take that provisional pole away from Will Lewis? No, he can't. P3 for the Dutchman. So here, Dan, Will Lewis is looking like he's very, very strong here so far through the first runs of quali.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe my prediction for once could be correct about him. So well done, Will Lewis, at the minute as Jake Benham comes across the line in P4. Istvan Pukki will be the last of these initial runners to get a time on the board of 107.756 from him. However, Ruben Bedreño also out on circuit and appearing purple in Sector 2. Open up that DRS through turn number 14. Very interesting. That's a feature around this circuit. Could be a little bit dangerous as he now approaches the line. What's it going to be for Ruben Bedreño? 4 thousandths quicker than Nicholas Longe. A nice time from him there, slotting himself into P2 on the front row at the minute, but it's only 1 minute 7.6 at the moment. It is Will Lewis. Granted, there's only 6 thousandths between himself and Ruben Bedreño. Let's actually get the gap to the leader up on your screens. How about that, Nathan? The top 6 separated by just over half a tenth of a second. That is sublime.
Indeed, and I think going through and towards this final part of qualifying, anyone in this top 10 can get it, and I think they all have a fair chance. Normally, there's a couple of drivers I think that are a little bit out of it, but so far, I think everyone here has shown the pace in Q1 and Q2, and now, obviously, some of them in Q3 to show they can take pole position. This could be a brilliant fight for pole, and even though Will Lewis is on provisional pole, that is nowhere near guaranteed. Around some circuits it might be, but around here it is definitely not. Obviously one of the shortest runs, one of the shortest lap times I think on the whole calendar, bar a couple of tracks. This is what makes qualifying so interesting because everyone is so close together. But Ruben as well, P2, very good for him in the Alpine. Maybe he can try and take that pole position away from Will Lewis, and all Will needs to do now is just make another lap and get even a slight improvement could be enough. But he just needs to make sure he doesn't ruin that lap, because from what we've seen so far, Dan, he could be first now, but by the end of quali, if he doesn't find any improvements, he could be seeing himself down in possibly even P10.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible how close the gaps are at the moment, and this is what we do come to expect around Zandvoort, but I wouldn't expect it to be this fine between the top 6. Maybe the top 10 are going to be all separated by a tenth of a second at this point, which would be absolutely amazing to see. I remember, I'm trying to think of like a time where qualifying was incredibly close. I think back, I want to say PSGL F2 season 29, Nathan. This is before you and I in Bahrain. The gaps between Samuel Bean and Risky was nothing for pole position. That was the finest margin I've ever seen in qualifying. Literally, they set the exact same lap time. Of course, the less said about the legitimacy of one of those laps, the better. But we'll see how they fare here in Zandvoort today, and I wonder how close is the gap going to be between the two leaders heading in towards the front row.
Of course, well, I could talk about a legitimate time where two drivers have set the same lap time, and that was at Brazil between Max Wiesel and Istvan Pukki. I can't remember what the lap time was. I'm not that good, but I do remember it was 0.000 between those two, and I think then the car in third was about, I think it was 20 thousandths back, so that was very close. And I think it's great to see pole position times when they're that close together, but it is always heartbreaking for the guy in second.
Oh yeah,
because even though they deserve to be at the front and they have the same time, you've got to start looking then is it the tens of thousandths of seconds at that point.
See, the thing is, like, it's actually, I think it's supposed to be to the nearest 1,000th, but whoever does it first, they will get the lap time.
Yeah.
So if that happens, if that happens in real F1, that's how they do it. But I don't believe that is how it's based on the F1 game, because I have seen drivers come across the line with a quicker lap time. Come across the line first, and then someone behind them does the exact same lap time, but they end up ahead. So I think it is to the 10,000ths, 100,000ths of a second, which is unfathomable how tight the margins are. Let's have a look then. Will Lewis getting his lap underway. Currently, Nathan, on provisional pole position, but one slip up on this lap, and he can see himself tumbling down the order. So the pressure is paramount for Will Lewis as he approaches Tarzan Book now, and oh dear, and I've messed it up there. That is a commentator's curse. Will Lewis, did he lock the rears or something? He spins through turn number 1. Very peculiar there.
Yeah, indeed, that's not something you see happen too often at all, but Kai Pearson shows Will Lewis how to take turn number 1, and he heads himself now down towards turns 2 and 3, and can Kai Pearson try and take pole. The gap between him and Will Lewis is only 20 thousandths of a whole second. That's less than a quarter of a tenth of 1 second. So Kai Pearson definitely could try and take this pole position away. Heading through now towards turn 7, the end of that first set. He's up by a tenth of a second here. This is looking brilliant for Kai Pearson so far, but he's got a lot of pressure on him. He knows he's up on his time. He knows he's looking for pole position. He's just got to keep it calm and collected through in towards turn number 9. Then back to left at turn number 10, where he meets Will Lewis, who's just heading down towards there himself now. And I think no, we don't have time to go again. So Will Lewis will be done on his lap time. What can Kai Pearson do? He's up by a tenth and a half here, Dan.
Ooh, how far will our provisional pole sitter fall? He's definitely going to be falling to Kai Pearson at the minute. On a flyer at the minute is the Alpine driver, now heading in towards turn number 13 and 14 for the final time in qualifying. The clock continues to tick down for him. What is it going to be for Kai Pearson? What will be the benchmark for everyone chasing pole position? A 1 minute 7.523 from Kai Pearson there. A great way to end off his qualifying. What about Sergio Sabrino up to the line at 107.724? Not good enough for pole. What about Jake Benham? Only in P2, coming up short in the final parts of Q3. Very, very disappointing from him. Ruben Pedreño, unfortunately, invalid on that lap time. What about Tamás Gal as he approaches the line? We know how proficient he is in qualifying. Only P6 for the Hungarian. Duncan Hofland has had some great pace here so far this evening. It's P3, second row of the grid for him. What about the favourite for pole tonight? Thomas Ronhaar up towards the line, missing out by just about 200ths of a second. Istvan Pukki will be the penultimate driver up towards the line. It's P3 from him. That means Nicolas Longuet is the last driver to come across the line. What is it going to be for the Frenchman? He will approach it, and I believe that was a P5, P6 lap time there from him. So Kai Pearson, what a lap time from him. The only driver in the 1 minute 7.5, and he's managed to nestle himself onto pole position. Sorry, Thomas Ronhaar was also in the 0.5s, and the gap between them, 19 thousandths.
What a lap there from Kai Pearson onto pole position here in the Alpine, ahead of Thomas Ronhaar on the front row. Then the second row is between Istvan Pukki and probably the favourite for pole, Jake Benham, who's a 10th off the lap time of Kai Pearson. Then we have Duncan Hofland in P5 ahead of Nicolas Longuet in P6. Then, at one point, pole sitter Will Lewis, and a mistake has cost him 6 positions. He will start in P7 ahead of Ruben Pedreño in P8. Tamás Gal starting 9th, and Sergio Serrano will start 10th position. But 2/10 separating the top 10, only a tenth of a second separating the top 5.
Yeah, that is absolutely insane how close that Q3 time was, but it was Kai Pearson the quickest in qualifying. I know Cameron's there in the live chat is going to be very happy about that one there. I believe we're going to have a lobby restart now, so join us back in the commentary box to talk about that qualifying and digest what happened after a quick word from our sponsors. We'll see you just a few minutes time.
Is the home of sim racing leagues. Our management tools allow you to recruit drivers and monitor their ratings and live split. Find this and more at GridFinder.
Apologies there, everyone, for pressing my arrow keys as we got towards the end of that next level racing advert. Hopefully you didn't hear myself and Nathan having our little chat in at the ad break there. I didn't know that the arrow keys shifted between scenes on OBS, so you learn something new every single day. But coming to the end of that qualifying session, Kai Pearson, how about that from him? Nathan, gotta say, he wasn't who I thought there.
I think he did a brilliant job. I think, you saw back from Reese Linton back in Mexico, those two obviously moving over from Xbox. I'm sure I've seen those two together on many occasions now. Obviously, both taking poles in WRT1. I think we can class this social race as a Tier 1 race. I think it's brilliant to see for both of them. And, well, Race Culture got themselves two brilliant young guns in their, lineups. Maybe in the future of esports, those two can try and fight for a seat in the Pro Series team, and maybe challenges if that ever comes back. But we don't know about that at all. I think that's been a little bit left in the dark. Either way, I think those two would have more than enough pace to fight for that. But tonight, Kai Pearson's job, I think, as much as he might want to win, I think he's just got to try and keep himself calm and not try and allow too much pressure to get to him, because we've seen it happen before, with Tamashkal being a perfect example. Back at a couple, I think it was at the first race of the season, took pole in Bahrain and then just dropped down the field after the first few laps because the pressure got to him and he couldn't really get himself into that perfect mindset, and then you make mistakes because you're pushing too hard to keep ahead. And then that just ends to a pretty poor race in the end.
Yeah, you can be as quick as you can in qualifying, be 2/10 ahead of the field, but if you can't do it in the race, what's the point? When, of course, you're racing in Tier 1 during Season 16, there's no points in qualifying, and that's how it is really for every single league. So, yeah.
Indeed.
There's no point in doing it in the race if you don't have the end. In qualifying, if you don't have the end product. We'll have to wait and see if Kai Pearson has got that in his back locker. Another name that springs to mind, Reese Linton in Mexico on pole position, ended up that race in 17th by the end of it. So, qualifying's not everything, and the race is a whole different ball game. Nathan, heading into this one, it's going to be very exciting to see how close that grid was in qualifying, how they tackle it in the race, with potential maybe. I'm actually seeing the weather set to sunny at the minute, but if it's dynamic, weather could be an impact here.
Indeed, I think the one thing we talk about is the fact there's no safety car. So if someone makes a mistake, that is your race pretty much done, unless somehow everyone else ahead of you makes a big mistake, which costs you a pit stop. So that's the one thing is the drivers have got to avoid mistakes, because there's no way you can get it back at all. There's no way you can really try and triumphant over what's happened. So get yourself into a good position in the race, keep yourself comfortable where you are, use that DRS if you can. But then if you're leading the race, like Kai is, he doesn't have to worry too much, because making moves quite difficult. It's not an easy track to make a move. It's easy to defend. It's easy to attack if you're a very aggressive driver, which, to be fair, I think everyone will just try and play it safe either way, unless it's the last lap and they're both on brand new tyres. I think, apart from that, there'd be no need at the start to really make any moves.
Yeah, absolutely, and I'm just trying to think where you actually can go for an overtake. Definitely, turn number 1 is the only really place that springs to mind, and we definitely do see a lot of overtakes being made around that circuit. If I remember correctly, I can't remember who it was, but it was this Fampuki and one other driver. I think it might have been Ben Sharp or Kanye or something in the race during the course of the season. They just crashed at turn number 1, completely unprovoked. I think someone just drove into the other driver, like they were sort of side by side, and then bang, they hit each other off the track. So
then, wasn't this where we saw Lucas Blakely been on the straight after contact as well?
It was Josh Doe and Danny Moreno. They crashed on the straight. Lucas Blakely had nowhere to go. I mean, actually, before the race, I was considering making a little video just to, showcase some of the best moments that we've had at Zandvoort, and that would have definitely been one of them.
Yeah,
but
of course.
Yeah, unfortunate for Lucas Blakely. He's maybe got a little bit of trauma heading back into this circuit, so maybe that's why we're not seeing him there tonight.
Yeah, maybe. But I think either way, we're still going to have something interesting happen. I think around this circuit, something always happens. Qualifying, we had a bit of drama, but I think we could have definitely saw a lot more drama in terms of who was ended up where in position. But I think going towards this race now, I think lots will happen. Maybe not at the front, maybe in the mid-pack, because we've got drivers trying to fight through. We've also got drivers that are near the front, maybe dropping back a little bit. So that could cause some issues. At the back of the field, obviously, the drivers at the back were quite far off anyway in the first part of qualifying, so I could see that being yet again trying to, they'll break away a bit. But apart from that, I couldn't see it being a quite an interesting race. Also, it's a social race, so there's not as many stakes on as there would be in an actual league race. So there's many different factors to consider.
What I think is going to happen, Nathan, is that everyone is going to go hammer and tongue throughout the entirety of the race, because there's no actual impact. Well, you know what? I think maybe If there's this rumored esports calendar has Zandvoort on it, maybe some of the esports guys, they're all going to try and get the setup absolutely perfect, get the strategy right, and then some of these tier 2 guys, Joris Krozen, JST, we're going to rely on them to just try and make sure they all disregard that completely and just take the fight throughout the entire race. It'll be absolutely incredible to see. We're hoping that we're gonna see some great battles here tonight, because if these drivers can fight side by side around this circuit, Nathan, it's beautiful to watch, especially in that first sector. As you swoop through that S's section along the sand dunes of Zandvoort, it's beautiful to see. That can be some proper racing here tonight.
Yeah, indeed. I think the one place we don't want to see moves, though, is turn 8. Oh, that is the last place you want to see it go to. I've seen it happen, but the issue is because of it being quite a thin corner, you both end up going wide, and one of you ends up on that horrible curb, which either ends up in a DNF or just going very straight and then being about 5 seconds back because you've got to navigate yourself back on towards the circuit. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen here tonight. But apart from that, I think we're in for some very great racing, and hopefully we can get started quite shortly because we've got everyone in. So just going to wait for the lobby to be set up now, waiting for Jay, of course, thanks to him for hosting the lobby, just to set up the grid and get everyone in their correct order. And then we should be able to head our way into what should be a brilliant 36-lap race. Obviously, with this track being quite short, it means we have lots of laps to get through. I think this is the same amount of laps as we have at Austria.
36.
Which is also 36 laps, yeah. And apart from that, I think Monaco is the same. And I think apart from that, no other track is even close to 36 laps. I think they're all maxing around 29 laps, aren't they, Dan?
Monaco's 39. And then...
Oh, is it?
Yeah, Monaco, because it's 78 laps in the race, but it takes so long to do a 50% of Monaco because it's so slow. It's the same thing with Singapore, because they're actually really short circuits, but due to the fact that they're really slow, it means that they've got a longer lap. The lap time is longer, but the actual lap distance is based on distance, not the amount of time that it takes to complete one lap. So Monaco and Singapore, some of the longest circuits. You've also got Brazil, 36 laps. There, Singapore's 31. Las Vegas, I think. No, I don't really remember all too well anymore. I think Vietnam might have had a few as well, but we never got to see that in F1. We're clutching at straws, Nathan, of things to talk about at the minute, but I can confirm we are now loading into the lobby, so we're about to get this race underway. I think now is a good time to ask, who's your top 3?
I'm gonna go with Kai for P3. P2, I'll go with... I forgot who's where. P2, I'll go with Thomas, and P1 will be a surprise.
P1 is a surprise. Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of who else is there, so...
Surprise. I mean, I don't think Josh is racing tonight, unfortunately, if you're going for surprise to take the win. Nathan, I know you don't know all the old names and stuff, but he used to be...
Oh, is that someone's name?
That's Josh Ado's old name.
Oh, what? Surprise.
Surprise. Yeah.
Never knew that.
Let's bring us over then to the game scene now. We can have a little look at the sunny blue skies here in Zandvoort. We'll get ready for this race to get underway. Kai Pearson with a surprising P1 at the end of qualifying. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat who you are going for to take the victory tonight. Already Cameron's dad saying Kai for the win. Love to see the support for KP. As a few people have been referring to him. Smokey as well, I believe that's Declan Barrett, is a nice fan of Kai Pearson. So it seems like a very popular driver has been able to capture P1 tonight. If you're asking for my prediction, just look at the closest garage to us in this little spectator cam and you'll have my answer there. I always have faith in him. No matter how badly he does in qualifying, he'll always turn it around in the race. But heading into this race, 36 laps, Nathan, very tricky to get it absolutely perfect. 36 times over around this track. It's going to be a tough one today.
It will be. It's going to be a long marathon, not a sprint.
Here we go then, getting ready for this 36 lap esports invitational. And we are underway. Kai Pearson leading them down in towards turn number 1. He's had a fantastic start ahead of Thomas Ronhar. Further back behind, Istvan Pukki and Jake Benham going side by side as they take to Tarzan block for the first time along this race. Jake Benham retaining P3 in the minute. Little bit of lag there for Istvan Pukki. He's all the way down now in 20th position. But Kai Pearson leading the way ahead of Thomas Ronhar as they take now to the S's.
Yep, Shabakonya's gone round as well. Down at turn number 3, I'm not sure what's happened to him. He got collected there, I believe, by Isfan Pookie. As they headed through that section, we've got more cars going side by side. For the mid-pack, we've got Jack West and JSC going side by side. Tyre-wise, we've got hards and mediums all scattered around the grid, and those on the mediums looking to make some very early moves. As we can see further back there, we can see Jack West looking to close in on Barry Burman, who's in P11. Further up, we can see lots of Ruben Progenio on the back of Nicholas Longo, who also started on the hard. So obviously Duncan Hoffland has passed him, and now it's the Alpine's turn to try and get past the Ferrari on the harder compounded tyre, but we know that his strategy will come back to him at the end of the race.
Andrei Tarabukin going for a spin there with 3 wide in turn number 11. Very ballsy move from Andrei there. He will be relegated all the way down into P20 after that one there. So already elbows out early on as they approach lap number 2. Ruben Pedreño all over the rear of Nicholas Longo. He'll look towards the outside line. No room at the end though. Great defensive driving from Nicholas Longate there, and Ruben Pedreño going to have to sit behind for the time being, but he's all over the back of Nico in towards turn number 3. A former Alpine driver versus a current Alpine esports driver in Ruben Pedreño. We're going to see a tantalizing battle between the pair of them as this race continues along, but still it is Kai Pearson leading the way ahead of Thomas Ronhaar, but Thomas, he's all over the back of him, and next time by Nathan, we're going to get DRS.
Of course, I think we know with Thomas Ronhaar, even in the normal main season, he likes to have a bit of a different race. He might send silly moves. He also likes to start from the back. He doesn't go in that traditional, just trying to win strategy. He likes to do something a bit more fun for himself. So I'm sure we'll see him trying to fight for the lead on multiple different occasions once he gets in towards that battle. But we saw further down Leo Lund going into the pit lane for a new set of mediums, but also going in to change his front wing, so he obviously got into contact with someone. And we also saw Andrei Tarabukin retire from the session in the McLaren, so that's it done for those two, and pretty much probably done for the whole race. I can't see Leo Lund really gaining back in, so that front train from being 23 seconds back further behind. We can see people looking to kind of set up for moves rather than actually making moves. We can see there Sergio Sabino closing in on Tamas going to turn 1, but wasn't quite close enough to make a move in towards turn number 1, and heading through and towards turn number 3 we go. And there Thomas Ronhaar very close to the back of the LP, looking to close in and make a move for P1, but still not quite close enough further back. Obviously Nicholas Longay is in a decent position because he's not really under pressure here from the back of the Alpine, even though the Alpine's on better tyres.
Yeah, Nico's kept in the train at the minute, and in fact I think he's actually gained a position. Leo Lund into the pit lane. He will retire from this race. No safety car, means that he is not going to have any shot of reclaiming any positions in this Grand Prix, so he will retire. The two Red Bulls doing battle further back down the order. Let's have a look at them on our screen side by side, approaching turn number 11. It's Chanakinchi on the inside line of Jack West. They come very close to contact between the pair of them. Jack West this time by will have that inside line. Chanakinchi still sticking his nose in there. Little bit of contact between the pair of them, and Jack West not happy with that contact at all. And now Barry Burman is all over the rear of the Red Bull. He's on the battery as well. Can the Ferrari driver look to make an impact heading down and towards turn number 1? Doesn't look like it for the time being, but the two Red Bulls elbows out very early. Chanakinchi, we know he's a bit of an aggressive driver. He's all over the back of Jack West through turn number 1. This battle could boil over soon.
Of course, and I think here Chanakinchi's intentions are clear. He wants to get himself in towards that top 10 and fight for some decent points here in this race. And Jack West at the moment not really allowing him to, as they're still stuck in a battle. Further back, we can see here JSC looking to close in on Barry Burman there. So Barry looking to struggle here a little bit at the start of this race. Obviously losing a couple of positions as well since the start. He's not looking that strong in the Ferrari here, so we'll see what he can do and what he can manage to do in the rest of this race. Those on the hards already looking to be a little bit more comfortable than those on the mediums, so a bit of a turnaround already on that 4 of 36. We can see obviously further back there Bant Shabakonyi, he also had a mistake. He's down now 1.7 seconds from the leading train, trying to get himself back into it. As we saw there, Nissan Puka looking for a move on the back of Julian Klappenbach for P15. But back near the front once again, Kai Pearson still leads ahead of Thomas Ronhaar as they head down towards turn 1. DRS have been enabled. Do we see a move here for the lead? Because Thomas is catching him very quickly here to the back of the Alpine. No, just 6 behind for now, and so does Jake Benham. All those behind just sticking behind, using that DRS rather than fighting and burning up their tyres, and also losing time for those behind trying to catch up.
Well, the intentions have been made for Thomas Ronhaar and Jake Benham. They want to allow for Kai Pearson to lead. That is not going to do any favours to the Alpine driver, because essentially he is the trailblazer along this race, meaning he'll be utilising more of his tyres. He's going to be saving less of the battery. He's not going to get DRS. It is not a great position despite being in P1 leading the race, it's actually not a really great place to be. And so Thomas Ronhard doing a smart thing here, allowing for Kai Pearson to lead, and then he will strike once the pit stops come out very soon. As Kai Pearson continues in P1, Thomas Ronhard P2, third is Jake Benham, and this race going to be in a little bit of a lull period for the time being. Fingers crossed we get to see some battling very soon. I think, Nathan, we might have to rely on the two Red Bulls to get their elbows out once again.
Yes, once again, we won't see that happen in real life, but I think we can see it here in the esports side, and we'll see if Chanakichi yet again looks to close into the back of his now teammate Jack Quest in the other Red Bull. We can see further ahead though, Ronhard looking to make a move for the lead, does get it past the back of Kai Pearson. Into P1 goes the Saber car. Then obviously we can see Jake Benham there in P3. I think for a second was looking to try an easy way past Kai Pearson, but just couldn't quite get a good enough run to make a move to take P2 away from the Alpine, who's still doing a very decent job now in the second place, looking to be on the back of Thomas Ronhard. But Jake Benham is looking to close in and make some pressure here on the back of the Alpine. Further back we can see Duncan Hoffman just sitting a little bit ahead, and Nicholas Longue, who's in the top 5 now on those, of course, those 5-lap old hard tyres, looking to get himself a little bit stronger now than those on the mediums, closing into the back of that lead train, looking like he's running on the same tyre, if not running on a quicker tyre at this current point. And now the question is, Dan, does this strategy work in the ways of those on the hards?
Surely it does. I mean, Nicholas Longue, Tamash Gal, the pair of them well and truly integrated into the train, meaning that the undercut is, oh dear, not going to be too powerful for all of the medium runners, because Nicholas Longue is not going to lose all that much time. If it was the other way round and they were like 3 seconds ahead, like we saw trying to think in PSGL with Freddie Rasmussen, who just dominated the way in USA, as Kai Pearson will move back into the lead of the Grand Prix. He was able to lead early on and get 3 seconds clear of the rest of the train, and that gap was good enough with the undercut to win this Grand Prix. That's not happened for any of the medium runners in this race so far, which means the ball is in the court of Nicholas Longue and Tamash Gal. The former especially is going to be in a fantastic position towards the end of this race.
Of course, and we can see further back there, Will Lewis looking to gain in onto the rear of Ruben Progenio as they head through into the end of that first sector. So Will Lewis now getting a bit more comfortable in the position. He's in starting 7th, sitting 7th at the moment. So doing a decent job for the Williams team as they head through now in towards turns 9 and turns number 10. Tamash Gal as well looking to hunt down the back of Will Lewis as well in the Haas on the hard tyres. He's looking quite strong. So him and obviously Nicholas Longue, as we've mentioned recently, are looking to obviously take it longer, go onto a set of mediums, maybe even softs if they dare, but I don't think that would be that likely, and then be a lot quicker on that second stint. For now, though, sacrificing some positions and also some pace. As you can see once again, Thomas Ronhard and Kai Pearson probably going to retake P1 away from each other, and then obviously Jake Benham in behind looking to make a move here on the back of Ronhard. He's gaining in quickly. Can Jake Benham slot himself through? Thomas Ronhard takes the lead, and no. Jake Benham, even though he had the run to, he sits back, but then looks to go up the inside as Kai Pearson went a little bit too deep down towards turn 1.
Oh dear, Thomas Ronhard leading the way then, ahead of Kai Pearson. Jake Benham just sitting in the best seats in the house to watch this battle, right on board with the Mercedes driver. It seems like Kai Pearson is having trouble leading the way, and Thomas Ronhard getting through easily on him. However, just DRSing off each other, that is really going to be the way to go for these two drivers. They're going to take turns leading this Grand Prix. It seems like the top 3 are actually beginning to stretch away from the rest of the field. Duncan Hoffman is struggling to keep pace with Jake Benham. Maybe the All-Star is beginning to push a little bit and apply the pressure to Kai Pearson, maybe trying to put himself into P2 and then take the fight to Thomas Ronhard. He'll pull to the inside line to cool the car, then get it back onto the racing line. So it seems like at the minute he doesn't want to go for these moves, but maybe down in towards turn number 1, that's where we could see a nice move made from Jake Benham.
Of course, we'll see what he does now as he heads through in towards Zari London, but actually lost time there on the back of Kai Pearson. You can see lost about half a tenth of a second there. And this time around, I don't think we'll be close enough to really make much of a move. You can see completely moving out of that slipstream, wanting to cool the engine down there on that Mercedes car, then moves back into the slipstream into turn 1 to get the ideal racing line, and then just sits down behind and still follows behind the back of the top 2. We saw there Tamash Gal looking to make a move ahead of Will Lewis, but Will defended it well in towards that first corner. And as they head through in towards turn 3 and 4, Tamash Gal is looking to get this move done, looks to get on with it here, but he just can't find a way past the Williams here of Will Lewis, who's doing a brilliant job to defend. We can see as well Nicholas Longue looking to close in and make a move ahead here of Duncan Hoffman, but still can't find a way through. Duncan going a little bit wide there, allows Nico to get a decent run, but nothing can be made of it because this track is so difficult, Dan, to overtake on. The only real opportunity is down towards turn number 1 here.
Yeah, absolutely. It is very difficult. Maybe towards turn number 11 you can make a move down the DRS straight, but it is very... we seldom see a move being made through there. We're on lap number 9 now of 36, and we're still awaiting a real battle at the minute. Everyone just doing their best to save the tyres and go as long as possible in this Grand Prix. However, Kai Pearson might be on the back of Thomas Ronhaar once again, heading in towards turn number 1. We'll see them fan out, I believe, once again trying to cool the engine with that Boston song replaying in their ears at the minute. Yeah, all of them just pulling out the slipstream, cooling the engines, as one would say, and in towards now turn number 1, lap number 10 of this Grand Prix. We're approaching 1/3 of the way through in this Grand Prix, Nathan. We're just waiting for these pit stops, I think.
Yeah, we need to wait for pit stops, or we need to wait for someone to get impatient and disrupt the flow, which I don't think is looking like to happen at this current point. And pit stops was, I don't think we'll see those till around lap 18, lap 19 either, because of how long this race runs. So around lap 15 to 18, we might see a few very early pit stops, but then after that, we'll probably see the flurry of cars go in and make pit stop onto probably a set of the hards. Maybe those further back could try and stretch for a set of the softs, but I don't think that'll be too likely. Or, at that point, you're just trying to make something work. As they all head down now in towards turn 11 and 12 once again to commence lap 10 of 36. And we can see Duncan Hoffman there, right on the back of Jake Benham, also looking to close it. And Jake, I've seen has been making a few mistakes here and there, running a bit wide, breaking a little bit too late into some corners, which is costing him a little bit of time, especially in this final sector, trying to get back onto the rear of Kai Pearson. But Thomas Ronhaar looking comfortable, isn't he, in front? Last time when Thomas was behind Kai with the DRS, he was pushing him along, but now he's just sitting where easy we can see further back, though. Dan Chanakinchi making a move ahead of the Red Bull teammates.
Yeah, finally we got some battling on our screens. Chanakinchi around the outside of his teammate Jack West. Shuts the door, though, does the Welshman, and Chanakinchi not able to find that move, but it's great to see some battling on lap number 11. What can Chanakinchi do as he continues to apply the pressure to Jack West at the minute? Might have to back off in the second sector, maybe recuperate and go once again. We'll have to wait and see then, as Nicholas Longue further up the field is all over the back of Duncan Hoffman, looking up the inside line. Oh dear, so close to contact between the pair of them, and they indeed do touch through turn number 9. Around the outside through turn number 10 is not going to work out for Nicholas Longue, who's getting the elbows out and trying to go for this move on the Dutchman, but no give there. Great defensive driving from Duncan Hoffman, just about squeezed Nicholas Longue to the inside, made it very awkward for the Frenchman to make that move stick, then had the inside line. That was a great defensive work from the Aston Martin.
Of course, brilliant racing between the two. Looking to battle for 4th and 5th place. We can see further back, though, Ruben Progenio is looking to get in here to the back of Nicholas Longue, but I don't think it's enough to try and force a move ahead of the Ferrari. We can see behind that, yet again, Tamas Gal looking to close into the back of Will Lewis, but he still can't find a move ahead at all of the Williams. And we also saw for a second, I think it was Istvan Puka there looking to make a move ahead of Joris. So P14, obviously Istvan had that mistake. I believe it was due to him having to tab out because of his forced feedback, joined back in, and ended up being at the back of the field. He's going to P15 in this train on the hards. I think he stayed definitely, Dan, still not over here.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of factors that can go into this race, and you've actually got the entire field, barring Ben Abercrombie, in one big DRS train. So one bust up could mean that someone outside the top 10 could have a look in. And I've just noticed as well, looking at the timing screen, Barry Burman has found his way through on Chanakinchi, now splitting the two Red Bull drivers. We'll see how that works out as this race continues along on lap number 12. This time by will be 1/3 of the way through in this Grand Prix, and those medium runners going to start to think about a pit stop in the next couple of laps to go on to a set of the hards. I don't really see anyone extending all that much to go on to a set of the softs towards the end of the race, but we'll have to wait and see, as now Kai Pearson is getting close to the rear of Thomas Ronhaar. I wonder if we're going to see once again a change for the lead. There's one of the Alpines into the pit lane. That is Ruben Madreno, because the other one goes for the lead of this Grand Prix. Kai Pearson back into P1, back into his pole position. Thomas Ronhaar happy to let him make that move.
Indeed, and joining Ruben in the pit lane will be another Spaniard of Sergio Sobrino. He's going to pit onto a set of the hard tyres, so they're going to go very long on these hard tyres there. Pit on lap 30 to take them all the way to lap 36. That's 23 laps. They'll take these hard tyres if I'm not mistaken. And we can still see there Ronhaar looking to close in onto the back of Kai Pearson, nearly tapping the back of the Alpine through and towards that middle sector there. You can see having to lift off completely behind Kai Pearson. So he'll head through now in towards this next section, and then you start to wonder as well, is this maybe a bit of a plan to hold them up to hell, Ruben Progenio here?
Maybe. I'm not too sure what the strategy is for Kai Pearson at the minute, but Thomas Ronhart not going for the move for the time being. Kai Pearson, yeah, you gotta say, he's looking slow in this sector here. Is Kai Pearson thinking about a pit stop at this point in the Grand Prix, then holding everyone else up in order to allow his teammate to close that gap, make the undercut work? We'll have to wait and see what is going to be the strategy call for Kai Pearson. Will he dart to the right-hand side? Indeed, he will. Into the pit lane then on lap number 13. It looks like one of the Red Bulls is following through, and oh dear, Chan is pitting behind his teammate. That is, yeah, his race is ruined because you see him now come into the box, and he is held up by his teammate Jack West. So Chan Akinci, rookie error, you got to say, from the Turkish driver there. He'll be relegated to pretty much last here, Nathan.
Indeed. A big shame there, of course, for Jack West, for Chan Akinci, sorry. I thought Jack West cut the pit lane. I'm sure that might be allowed here, and I'm sure it would be, otherwise he wouldn't have done it. And if it isn't allowed, then big shame for him. But luckily, I don't think penalties are applied here, as it's a social race, so you can kind of do what you want, do as you please. Here in these races, obviously within reason, of course, as we can see, Ruben Progenio actually come out behind Kai Pearson, so the undercut working, but obviously, not in the way he probably would have wanted to, as he's now just behind the back of his teammates. We can see further ahead still, Thomas Ronhart leads ahead of Jake Benham, ahead of Duncan Hoffland, and the question is now, do any of those guys choose to pit? Being as, obviously like behind, they made some very early undercuts. What do they do? Thomas Ronhart pits. Jake Benham stays. Oh no, we tried to dummy Jake Benham there into a pit stop, I think.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhart staying out on circuit, and he decided to pull off to the right-hand side, then dart to the left to keep it out on the circuit. So the top three all staying out at the minute on their worn-out medium tyres. Joris Krozen and JST, the two Tier 2 drivers, doing battle in the lower end of the top 10. They have lost a lot of time to the rest of the field. Barry Burman 1.7 seconds clear of the Williams. That's not going to do them any favours as this race continues along. We'll have a look back to the leaders. Jake Benham is all over the rear of Thomas Ronhart, and you get the feeling that Jake wants to go for the move in towards turn number 11 to try and lead Thomas Ronhart before they head into the pit stops. It's a smart move for Jake if he decides to do so. DRS wide open for the Mercedes driver. He'll look to the inside once again though to clear that, cool that engine and save his resources. So Jake Benham coming towards the halfway point of this Grand Prix, Nathan, has no interest in going for the move on Thomas Ronhart.
Indeed, he does not care at all. I think he might just be waiting behind. I think they know they're not losing too much time by just sticking with each other, unless it's a position like this now, where he just uses no battery. Well, he uses a little bit of battery there just to get himself a bit of a boost, and then just tucks back ahead and Ronhart sits behind. We can see as well Duncan Hoffman then making a pit stop in the Aston Martin. Tycho Hardy of his mediums as well makes a pit stop 3 wide into turn 1 there between Joris, Isvan Pukki and JSD, and Jake keeps himself ahead. Pukki's in 8th and Joris down to P9. Brilliant battle there between those three, making it 3 wide in towards that first corner. Now we can see Joris looking to try and get himself back ahead of Isvan Pukki, but just can't get anything done. Look how much time they've lost now. 2.5 seconds separates them and Barry Burman. That's a big shame for those two, and also Isvan Pukki, who is looking to really work his way back through.
And Isvan Pukki, he will want to be ahead of JST before heading into the pit stop, because of course you can have another Red Bull situation where Isvan will want to pit behind JST. They end up having some miscommunication there. I'd imagine they're not in a Discord call at the minute, and so Isvan could lose a lot of time and he'll want to get ahead, but he rides the curb off the exit of turn number 10, and that is going to really dispel any chance of an overtake on JST. And towards turn number 11 it looks like he might just have to go an extra lap if JST decides to pit this time by. However, in saying that, it's only been 16 laps in this Grand Prix, not even that at this point, so these hard runners are going to have to go a little bit longer in this Grand Prix if they want to make this strategy work. Heading down in towards turn number 1, you expect Isvan to go for the move on his teammate, looking towards the outside line of JST, and further back behind Joris Krozen and Julian Klaffenbach doing battle in towards turn number 1. They've come off very nicely in all of that. Isvan is through, Julian is through.
Of course, and we could see the two Alpine swapping around. That's been Ruben and Kite for P12 and P13. Chan Akinci also making his way past the back of Tiger Hardy for P17 and P18. We can see, of course, in this lead train, obviously Ruben is the net leader of the race, ahead of his teammates, ahead of Sergio Sobrino in 3rd position, and then Jack West in net 4th. Obviously looking to close in on those new hard tyres, but all those 7th down to 11th probably looking to pit themselves onto a set of the medium tyres a little bit later on. to give themselves a nice advantage towards the end, so they could be looking to try and fight back. And then those first, second, fourth, and sixth, I'm not sure why they haven't pitched yet, because they're leaving it quite late, aren't they, Dan?
Yeah, they are leaving it very, very late here. Maybe they are extending for a set of the soft compound tyres toward the end of this Grand Prix. Maybe they're just trying to make this overcut work as much as possible. Thomas Ronhaar is all over the back of Jake Benham. That tells me that Jake is into the pit, and indeed he is. So the Mercedes will pit, the Williams will pit of Will Lewis as well, leaving just Thomas Ronhaar and Barry Burman, the lone medium runners who started on this compound tyres, still left out on the circuit. We will see where Jake Benham and Will Lewis emerge in this train. You'd expect them to be behind maybe even Chanakinchi at this point. They're actually exiting through turn number 1 now on the mini-map on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Seems like Jake Benham and Will Lewis, both of them, going to be clear of Chan and Tycho Hardy. They'll nestle themselves into 15th and 16th. Try and close that gap to Duncan Hoffman with 2 lap fresher tyres.
Of course, and we'll see what they all can do now. Obviously, getting back in towards or filtering in towards that train. We can see Will Lewis as well, 1.8 seconds back from Jake Benham, so he's also got to do a bit of work to close in to the Mercedes, who's also on the exact lap, lap of tyre, obviously being 0 because they've only just pitted. And then obviously those ahead, you can see Jack West on 4-lap old tyres, Kai Pearson on 4-lap old tyres, and Ruben and Sergio on 5-lap old tyres. So they will be eaten up by all those that are pitted now, probably within the next 3 or 4 laps, because the tyre degradation around here, once you hit that drop off, you're losing probably about maybe half a second a lap, maybe even more than that, I presume. So that's why we tend to see some moves being made from those who pit later and get those moves done within very surprisingly short amounts of time. As we can see, Ronhaar and JSC now make a pit stop. And we'll see what they go into. Hards for Ronhaar, I'm sure it'll be mediums for Jay and Bench. And Sego in it will be mediums for Jay and mediums as well for the Haas. And still, the Ferrari's staying out. 1, 3, and 4 they are at the moment, and no intentions of those guys pitting.
It's very interesting to see Barry Burman has now gone over halfway into this Grand Prix on the mediums that he started. Well, he's going to go over halfway on the mediums that he started on, so that just really does beg the question, why start on the mediums at all? Why not go for a set of the hard compound tyres, and then you can use the mediums later on in the Grand Prix? As now Jack West does battle with Duncan Hoffman. Duncan is through turn number 8. Jack still sticking it up the inside with the older tyres, and he forces Duncan Hoffman off the road there. That is not a clean move whatsoever from Jack West, who's darted it up the inside of Duncan Hoffman. We didn't really have a great camera angle there, but I'd imagine that Duncan is not going to be happy with that whatsoever. 2 lap fresher tyres as well strapped onto the Aston Martin. That does nothing for either Jack or Duncan, and that is just allowed for Jake Benham, Thomas Ronhaar and Will Lewis to close that gap now.
Indeed, as we can see, Barry Burman and Joris Krozer coming to the pits. Hards for Barry, it will be mediums, of course, for Joris, and we'll see what they can do. Obviously, them and Jay and Bench are the only ones now to take mediums to the end at this current point, so we'll see what they can do. We'll see if they got enough pace to try and catch up very nicely to that front train. Obviously, still being in the lead is Kai Pearson ahead of Ruben and ahead of Sergio Sabrino in 3rd. They're doing a very good job so far, but once those on the better tyres close in, there's nothing at all they will be able to do without that defence. We can see obviously the top 4 still yet to pit, obviously being Nicholas Longe, Tomasz Gal, Istvan Pukki and Julian Klaffenbach. They still have to make a pit stop probably onto a set of the mediums unless they want to go long and go onto a set of the softer compounded tyre. So we can see further back yet again moves looking to be made this time between Chanakinchi and Barry Burman. I think it was Barry passing Chan through that section though, so he's now into P14. We'll see what can Barry do here on these brand new hards, looking to catch up to that top train.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for him, given the fact that he has now left it out so long. He's let himself be undercut by 7 laps to Kai Pearson, to Ruben Pedreño and Sergio Sabrino. We're watching Duncan Hoffman at the minute, though, all over the back of Jack West with a chip on his shoulder. Not happy at the display that Jack West has shown so far this Grand Prix. Jack, in the meantime, is going for the move potentially on Sergio Sabrino. So Duncan, with no avenue to get through on Jack West, is going to have to spend another lap potentially looking at the Red Bull's rear wing. However, he's all over the rear. No look to the inside line. A little bit of contact between the pair of them once again between Jack West and Duncan Hoffman. And once again, Nathan, they've come off unscathed relatively, but that could have been very scary into turn number 3.
It could have definitely been, indeed, and Jack looking to make a move ahead here of Sergio Sabrino, who's looking to do a good job of defence here behind the back of the Red Bull. As they head now down in towards turn 9 and turn number 10, and a bit of a send there from Jack West, a bit of a late send, I think, there from Jack, as Duncan looks to go to the outside at turn number 10, take it around the outside of the Rebel. They go side by side down towards turn 11. Who will get the move done? Will it be Duncan? Will it be Jack to take P7 here, or P8 I should say, in this race? Duncan is ahead at the inside, and Duncan Hoffman does get the move done ahead of Jack West, and now into P8 goes the Aston Martin, looking to close in here on the back of Sergio Sobrino, who's looking here to really be struggling now.
And all of this battling is allowed for Jake Benham and Thomas Ronhart and Will Lewis to all close that gap into the lead train, as Duncan Hoffman is all over the rear of Sergio Sobrino, who's losing time to Ruben Pedreño at the minute. All of the leaders now have pitted. Tamas Gal, Nicholas Longe and Julian Klaffenbach deciding to come very late onto the set of the mediums. We'll see what they can do in this Grand Prix as they continue along on now lap number 22 of 36. Duncan not able to get through on Sergio Sobrino, however, he's all over the rear of him heading in towards turn number 7. Now it doesn't look like he'll get through this time by, but the move is very much on the cards, and Duncan could see himself into the top 3 very, very soon.
Of course, we'll see what Duncan can do here. Heading in towards turn 9, you can see there Sergio goes wide. No move can be made. We can see further back though Jake Benham making a move for P5 ahead of Jack West. Gets the move done. Just Jake Benham then sitting behind his Thomas Ronhart, looking to hunt after the back of Jack West. Heading out at turn 10. They go down towards turn 11. Outside on here for Thomas Ronhart, and Jack West pretty much lets him through there as they head in towards turn 11. Back towards the front though, we can see Duncan Hoffman did get the move done into P3. Goes the Aston Martin now, looking to hunt down to try and put himself into the best position possible, which is going to be the leader on these brand new, or I should say not brand new, but newer tyres, as we can see Will Lewis there make a move past Jack West.
Yeah, Jack West is going to lose a number of positions now, and it's very interesting to see how easy he made it for some of the other drivers behind him, but he really took the fight to Duncan Hoffman as Jake Benham late up the inside of Sergio Sobrino, inviting the McLaren driver in for a switchback side by side between the pair of them in towards turn number 2 and 3. Jake with the inside line though through the third corner around this circuit. He will nestle himself now into P4, and with a fantastic shot of fighting for the lead. The 2 Alpines still continue to lead at this point, but Duncan Hoffman and Jake Benham with the fresher, harder tyres could be on the back of them very, very soon. And how about this, Nathan? The top 5 pretty much separated by nothing.
Of course, and we can see as well, with all the ones at the front being a little bit slower with those older tyres, it's allowing all those behind to catch back up, and we could see a brilliant battle towards the end with all drivers involved. As we can see now, Thomas Ronhart looking to make a move to get himself into P5 ahead of Sobrino, but can't quite get the move done, has to back out. Sobrino locks the rears in towards the corner, goes deep, loses lots of time there to the back of Jake Benham as they head in towards Ari Dyke once again, and we'll see what moves can be made, because we can see here Ronhart looking to make a move for P5, and Jake Benham looking to make a move here ahead of Duncan Hoffman. Goes to the outside, back to the inside they go, down towards turn number 1. Surely Jake will be in P3. He's ahead before the braking zone. Duncan, can he try and switch around the outside? I don't think he can, but he'll try it. When the outside, and Jack West is retired in the pit lane. That's his day done. Also with a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pits. We can see as well Will Lewis ahead of Sobrino.
Yeah, Thomas Ronhart really got squeezed to the inside. Sergio Sobrino going to be losing this place to Will Lewis, not making it easy whatsoever. Now Will Lewis losing 0.8 of a second to the back of Thomas Ronhart. Jake Benham has found his way into P3 and is all over the rear of the 2 Alpines. This could be the race-changing move to be made for the all-star driver. He's all over the back of Kai Pearson. He's got 4-lap fresher hard tyres stuck onto that Mercedes. He's up the inside now in towards turn number 10. Down the inside goes Jake Benham, still wheel to wheel between the pair of them off the exit of the corner, and now around the outside. Can Jake Benham find this move? Wow, a fantastic overtake from the all-star there. An overtake hotter than a great sausage roll fresh out the oven. Fantastic move from Jake, and he's into P2 and all over the rear of Ruben Pedreño.
Of course, now in Jake Benham in the best position possible, but Kai Pearson is looking to hunt back to take P2 away, maybe look to take the lead away, because we can see Ruben working together. They go 3 wide in towards turn 1. Jake Benham with the inside, Kai round the outside. Ruben loses down 2 positions into P3, goes the Alpine, and now we can see further back as well Thomas Ronhart making a move ahead of Duncan Hoffman, and Will Lewis looking to make a move as well, sitting behind as they head through in towards turns 2 and turns number 3. Ronhart yet again now on the attack, trying to get through on Pedreño. Pedreño. As you can see, Will Lewis making a move there ahead of Duncan Hoffman, trying to make a move in towards turn 7. They close the contact between the Aston Martin and the Williams, and who will be heading towards turn 8? It's Duncan up the inside, Will to the outside line, bit of contact, Will nearly on the curb on the exit as they head in towards turn number 9. Will has the inside line at turn 10, touches the grass, loses the rear a little bit, and now we can see Duncan confirms that move. Ron Harnell into P3 ahead of Pedreño down towards turn 11, but Ruben will try and fight it back with the better run in towards that braking zone.
This is where the two Alpines are really going to struggle. As Thomas Ronhart almost onto the gravel, could invite his fellow countryman Duncan Hoffman into the move. Duncan was able to defend that position from Will Lewis in that second sector, as now approach lap number 26, 11 laps to go this time by. Who is going to be looking to make a move? Will Lewis all over the rear of Duncan Hoffman as they head in towards turn number 1. Duncan defending that inside line. Will Lewis has to go the long way round through Tarzan Block corner. Great defensive work from Duncan Hoffman, really in the wars as this race has continued along. They will stay as they are in the top 6, but this is a tantalising fight we are watching. We've been ignoring the medium runners. Nicholas Longue, how about this? All over the rear of Sergio Sobrino, and now Nathan, he is well and truly ingrained in the train.
Of course, and the question is now, what can Nicholas Longue do? Can he try and fight for victory here tonight? As we can see, though, Thomas Ronhart pushing the back of Ruben through into turn 9. Goes to the inside, late move there from Thomas Ronhart. Can he get the move done? He pushes Ruben off circuit. Ruben nearly gets collected by Duncan Hoffman in towards turn number 10. We can see as well Will Lewis sticking himself up the inside in towards that corner. DRS here for the Williams as Nicholas Longue into P6 he goes now. Looking to try and take P5, but isn't quite close enough into the braking zone. But look at that, and down to P10 is the whole train for the lead.
This is fantastic racing that we are watching at the minute. That lull period at the beginning of the Grand Prix, it was worth it for all this battling. Here is Nicholas Longue on the back of Will Lewis off the exit of turn number 14. The difference in grip is paramount. Meanwhile, at the front of the order, Kai Pearson is going for the move on Jake Benham as Thomas Ronhart also sticks a nose in there. 3 wide further back behind as well. We don't know where to look at this point. Nicholas Longue has found his way into that 5th position ahead of Will Lewis, and look at that, 4 drivers fighting into one corner. Jake Benham side by side with Kai Pearson off the exit of the corner, and it looks like Jake Benham is going to lose that place. In comes Thomas Ronhart around the outside of the Mercedes. He could look to get 2 into 1 as he soars the long way round on Kai Pearson, but he's onto the curbing and loses the place now to Jake Benham and Duncan Hoffman in the process. In comes Nicholas Longue looking for the battle.
Of course, as we can see there further back, Will Lewis losing position to Ruben Pedreño, but now Thomas Ronhart on the hood to get himself back into 3rd position, gets a better run down to turn 11, but actually we can see Nicholas Longue looking to gain in along with Duncan Hoffman. Duncan takes P3, Thomas tries to go around the outside, that will not work, and now that leaves Nicholas Longue to try and go around the outside. The Ferrari and the Sabre looking to battle, and Thomas keeps a position, and now Nico gets compromised on the exit, so he'll have to try and do it all again down towards turn number 1. We can see further back as well, Barry Burman getting involved in this battle, trying to get himself ahead of the Williams of Will Lewis as they head in towards turn 1, but back to the front we can see yet again moves looking to be made, and Duncan Hoffman defending from Thomas Ronhart round the outside. He was 2 tenths back and make to send in towards that first corner, still tries to seek his wheeling but can't quite keep the position through, so it will be Duncan in P3, and then we can see Nicholas Longue this time round the outside at turn number 3.
Fantastic racing that we're witnessing here on lap number 28. Nicholas Longue really being impeded by all of these hard runners in their battles as he looks towards the outside line at turn number 7 on Thomas Ronhart. When is he going to find this move? Thomas Ronhart really, I've got to say, some sketchy defending on the back of Nicholas Longue. Once again, defending that inside line. Nicholas Longue going the long way round and almost into the grass. That is a good defense that time by from Thomas Ronhart. Barry Burman invited into the train as well. He has some very fresh hards on his Ferrari, and this race could go any which way as Barry Burman still wheel to wheel with Ruben Pedreño. Is this race going to calm down? Are they going to keep on fighting? We'll have to wait and see as they approach lap number 29.
Of course, and another driver entering this battle is Tamas Galno in P8 on the brand, well, newer, I should say, medium tyres, looking to close it and make a move ahead of Ruben for P7, but back towards the front we go. We can see Ronhart looking to make a move for P3. We can see Nicholas Longue looking to make a move and gets blocked off by the Sabre as they head into turn 1. Bit of contact there, 3 wide on the exit of the first corner, down towards turns 2 and 3. It'll be Duncan ahead of Thomas, ahead of Nico, but Nico's got the outside line once again. Can he get it done this time around? He goes deeper, and I think Thomas gets a better run at the exit of the corner. He does get a better run, but Nico will will be looking to try and fight back, of course, into turn number 6 and 7. Can he find the move? I don't think he can. This time around, still, there's nothing that Nico can do to pass the back of Thomas Ronhard. Brilliant defence here from the Dutchman in the Sabre car, who's looking to still also attack on the back of, as now he gets to send in towards turn. It's going to be Nico trying to get ahead and pushing Ronhard off the circuit and slide bit, and now Barry Burman looking to get involved.
Finally, Nicolas Longuet finds that move. That's been 2-3 laps in the making. Barry Burman all over the rear now of Thomas Ronhard. This has been some breathtaking battling that we are witnessing here in the Esports Invitational. My tired Nathan, they are racing for nothing at this point. There's no points for this Grand Prix, and yet they're still fighting like it's the finale of the season and the championship is on the line. Beautiful stuff we are witnessing. Here's Duncan Hoffman on the back of Jake Benjamin towards turn number 1. I think now finally they might be calming down ever so slightly. Istvan Pukki, as I say that, is towards the outside line of Sergio Sobrino. What has happened with Will Lewis as well? He is now going to lose a place potentially to his teammate Joris Krozen. Doesn't look like it at this point in time, but lap number 30 of 36, around about 6.5 laps left to go in this race. Who's going to win?
Well, at the moment, Kai Pearson still leads. He hasn't been touched at all for these past 4 laps. He's been loving this, hasn't he? All those behind battling and getting damage and pushing each other off. He's just stayed in the lead and kept himself in a comfortable position. But we've got Nicolas Longuet looking to make a move into turn 9. Bit of contact between him and Hoffman. And that's going to be Duncan Hoffman round at turn number 9. More contact, ended up in a spin for the Aston Martin. And still, it's Nicolas Longuet in third ahead of Barry. But Thomas Ronhard looking to close in. Tamas Gal also looking to close in and make moves. Now, what can the Haas of Ronhard Tamas can do along with Istvan Pukki?
What happened there? I mean, there was a little bit of contact. Nico backed off, then came back for more and into the side of the Aston Martin car. Gotta say, Duncan Hoffman really has not had an enjoyable time in this Grand Prix, and it's climaxed at that point. Really disappointing to see. This is how his race is going to end. Now Nicolas Longuet has no DRS. Barry Burman will defend from Thomas Ronhard. Ruben Pedreño still battling it out with Istvan Pukki on his worn hard tyres. He's doing really well to keep it in the top 10, so shout out to Ruben Pedreño and Sergio Sobrino to their credit too, as they continue along on lap number 31. The top 2 have now got their lead over a second with that battle, and Duncan Hoffman being eliminated. There's now a chasm that's been formed between the rest of the field and the 2 leaders, so it definitely could have some implications heading into the final laps of this Grand Prix, as Tamas Gal is on the attack on Thomas Ronhard, but now Istvan Pukki is arriving onto the scene.
Of course, yes, Thomas Ronhard went really wide at turn 7 and cost himself lots of time. Tamas got up the inside, had to back out, and then Pukki appeared around the outside of the Haas. So those 2 get into battle there. The 2 Hungarians looking to battle in towards this next part of the race, and we've still got 5 laps left to go. And Nicolas Longuet, for a second, losing that 1 second gap in need, crucially, to the back of Jake Benham and Kai Pearson as they head through in towards Aaron Linddyke to begin lap 32 of 36. 4 laps left to go here in this race, and now we can see Jake Benham closer than ever, looking to take the lead away from Kai Pearson. To the inside he goes, and Jake Benham takes the lead here in Zandvoort. Kai Pearson in second, and Nicolas Longuet looking to close in P3 at this current time. But further back, we can still see many people looking to make moves and looking to catch back up. But for now, I think, Dan, it's starting to calm down a little bit more. But as we say that, I'm sure something will happen.
Well, now Nicholas is beginning to close the gap, which means we are set up for a showstopper finish here between all of these drivers in the top 10. I don't know who to root for. I don't know who's going to have the best shot of winning this Grand Prix. I don't know where to look. I have a feeling Barry Burman on his fresh hard tyres is going to have the best shot, just purely based on the pace that is capable of his Ferrari car. Those hard tyres are going to be better than the mediums at this point, despite Nico's being ever so slightly fresher. 10 laps on that set is going to do a little bit of damage to them. However, it's still enough to close to the rear of the 18-lap-old hard tyres strapped on to Kai Pearson's Alpine. That is going to be one brutal finish that Kai is going to have to try and take these towards the end of the Grand Prix. Where do we look? Where does it go? We'll have to wait and see. Lap number 33 of 36, Nathan. 4 to go as Kai Pearson closes to the lead.
Yes, indeed. This time around, not making the move to get himself ahead of Jake Benham. We can see Nicolas Longuet in third, looking to close in here on the back of the Alpine. And he'd look to try and make a move on this lap, because you can see the amount of pace he has better than the Alpine and, of course, the Mercedes, who's in the lead ahead at the moment. But we can see Nicolas Longuet, 65% of battery, Kai Pearson on 70. So realistically, they're both on very similar batteries, and they can both have a lot to use here at this current point. And we can see there Kai Pearson actually gaining into the back of Jake Benham in towards turn number 8. In towards turn 9 they go. And still Longuet looking to close in, but just can't find an opening yet to make a move ahead of the Alpine. Can't send it into turn 10. I think his opportunity here, Dan, will be down towards turn number 1. And actually down to turn 11 because we can see Kai going a bit deep.
Kai Pearson, those tyres really getting on in age. 19 laps at this point. To his credit though, he's not been driving like he's got 19 lap old hard tyres strapped onto his Alpine. He's doing everything he can to keep Nicolas Longuet in behind, but I think it might come to a bitter end very soon because Nico is on the battery off the exit of the final corner at Arie Luyendyk and is closing in towards turn number 1, but the DRS in hand for Kai Pearson is allowing for him to remain in that P2 position. He'll sit in behind Jake Benham for the time being. We'll see what happens. Now 3 laps to go. Barry Burman struggling to keep up with the 3 leaders. 0.8 of a second between himself and Nicolas Longuet. Could potentially invite the likes of Thomas Ronhaar, Tamas Gao, Istvan Pukki into the fray, as now Nicolas Longuet is on the back of Kai Pearson, heading in towards turn number 7, looks towards the inside line, side by side between the pair of them, little bit of contact, and Nicolas Longuet once again comes together with another driver.
Of course, and this time, luckily, not making it work for obviously for Kai's sake. But Nico nearly went round. He had a big spin, a half spin at one point coming through that sequence of corners. So big congratulations to him for actually keeping the car in a straight line as they headed in towards turn number 8. But now they head into turn 11 once again to look to start lap 35 of 36, the penultimate lap in this race. And Jake Benham leads ahead of Kai Pearson, ahead of Nicolas Longuet, and this could be a brilliant brawl towards the end between that top 3, or maybe even others behind if they get invited to this battle. But we can see Nico on the battery already looking to close in to the back of Kai Pearson, but Kai also using the battery to catch up to the back of Jake Benham and take the lead. Into turn 1 they go. Jake to the outside, Kai to the inside. Nico's going to try and stick behind. He can't do anything about it. Kai looks to take the lead away from Jake. Jake will have a better exit, but Nico a long way getting caught up there with Jake for a second as they head through into turns 2 and turn 3. Big contact for a second. Jake off the circuit for a second. Kai goes wide. Nico looks to make it 3 wide on the exit at turn number 3. Down to turn 6 they go.
Oh my word, still side by side between Jake Benham and Kai Pearson. Nicolas Longuet spectating this battle at the minute. Now everyone else in behind has also been able to catch up, and this could be a fantastic end to this esports invitational. Nicolas Longuet just sitting in the wings at the minute, allowing for Jake Benham and Kai Pearson to do their battling, and then he is going to wait to pounce at the perfect opportunity in towards turn number 10. Sticks his nose up the inside line. Kai Pearson with a mistake, and Nicolas Longuet gets himself into P2.
Of course, but Kai's going to try and fight back. No, he backs off. He doesn't want to make the move back ahead into turn 11. He'll be looking for it down in towards turn number 1. They exit out of turn 12. Down towards the final corner they go in towards for the penultimate time here in this race. And Jake Benham leads ahead of Nicolas Longuet, ahead of Kai Pearson, ahead of Barry Burman. But also we can see Thomas Ronhaar looking to close in and make moves ahead here of the throw. They head into turn 1. Who'll be making moves? Kai to the inside here of Nicolas Longuet. Nico hangs it round the outside. Slight bit of contact between the two as they head in towards turn 1 and 2. And Kai Pearson gets a move complete ahead of Nicolas Longuet. What a move there from Kai Pearson.
Wow, you just know he's getting extra hot on his Nando's order, because that was extra spicy from Kai Pearson, making that move on Nicolas Longuet. Despite Nico holding into that inside line, Kai Pearson threaded the needle and found that overtake, but it is not over. Ben Chabaquani retiring in the pit lane. Jake Benham looking uncontested at the front of the order. It looks like this could be going the way of the All-Star here this evening. Kai Pearson might be looking in his mirrors a little bit more than he is looking in front of him, because Nicolas Longuet, he's angry, he's thirsty for this move. He's all over the back of the Alpine, heading down in towards turn number 11 for the final time, but that might have been the move gone for Nicolas Longuet, meaning Jake Benham is going to be coming through the final few corners, leading this Grand Prix ahead of Kai Pearson, ahead of Nicolas Longuet off the exit of the final corner for the final time. Jake Benham will come across the line, a winner in Zandvoort. He will take victory in the Esports Invitational. Kai Pearson in second. Third is Nicolas Longuet. Barry Burman in fourth after getting ahead of Thomas Ronhaar. Tamas Gao in sixth. I saw an Alpine spinning across the line. A fantastic race filled with battling head to toe. Nathan, that was a special one.
It was a brilliant battle towards the end. I think we thought at the start it's going to be a little bit more boring because nothing really happened in the opening sequence of the race. But in the end, it became a brilliant battle towards the finish line. And of course, it will be Jake Benham who takes victory. And Kai Pearson, congratulations, P2 on 22 lap old hard tyres. Ruben and Sergio, who took the same strategy, couldn't even match him at all. They finished down in P8 and P9. But it will be Jake Benham who takes victory here tonight ahead of Kai Pearson, ahead of Nicholas Longane and Barry Burmand in the top 4. Thomas Ronhard will finish in P5 ahead of Tamas Gal. In P6, Van Pookie into P7, Ruben Pedreño P8, Sergio Sabino P9, and Will Lewis rounded out the top 10. Then we have JSD in 11th place ahead of Tiger Hardy, ahead of Joris Kroos in 13th, Duncan Hoffland in 14th, Chanakinchi 15th, Julian Klavenbach in P16. Then we did lose, of course, Spencer McConney, Jack West, Leo Lund, and Andre Tarabukin. But Dan, that was a brilliant race towards the end.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Jake Benham really was able to take away from the rest of the field. But it was Kai Pearson, you gotta say, Nathan, the star of the show. It was incredible to see him fighting it out with Nicholas Longate, a really established esports driver. He's been a part of the scene since, I want to say, 2019. That would have been in the 3rd season. Now we're in the 6th or whatever of F1 esports, or maybe in the 7th at this point, I believe. But regardless, incredible stuff from Kai Pearson to be able to fend off the how about that, the 3 drivers he actually beat in this Grand Prix that were directly behind him: Nicholas Longate, Barry Burmand, and Thomas Ronhard. That's something to be proud of. So really well done to Kai Pearson. Me personally, MVP of this race. He is the driver of the day in my eyes. That was a really stunning performance from him.
Looking through, Dan, if you look at all the people that finished the race, Kai Pearson actually had the slowest best lap time.
He did. You're
so
right.
to be in 2nd place is brilliant. Everyone else is in the 110s. Obviously no one into the 1.9s. Obviously it was Nico took the fastest lap, but a 1:11.0 got him the slowest personal best, but still got 2nd place, which is brilliant. Absolutely masterclass here from Kai Pearson. Easily, I think, driver of the day. It's a little bit like the Ollie Behrman story, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, it was really great to see, and you know what? When we typically see in WOR here, the rookie drivers not really. Not classified as rookies, but the newer guys to tier 1, if they're able to qualify really high like Reese Linton and Tamas Gal, and they qualify on pole, it's quite common to see them drop down the order. And tell you what, Kai Pearson had none of that this evening, so that was a really, really well-worked race from him. I've just seen a funny little copy pasta in the live chat. If Kai Pearson has 1 million fans, then I'm one of them. If Kai Pearson has 1 fan, I'm that one. If Kai Pearson has no fans, that means I'm dead. I absolutely love that copy pasta there. Great to see all the love as well going to Kai Pearson, and this could be the start of a nice little fandom for him there, and because I know he's a popular driver, but I've never really seen this support from him on a WOR stream, and maybe, Nathan, this esports invitational could be that stepping stone for him.
Indeed, and Dad, you say you don't see this much support from him, but I don't think we've seen him much in tier 1 for a start.
He's raced in tier 1 a good few times.
It's brilliant to see him getting the support, isn't it? Though P2,
yeah.
And I think that was a championship winning drive. It was perfect from start to end. He started off well. He kept it calm and comfortable the whole way through. He didn't let the pressure get to him, which I thought the end would, but he kept it perfectly fine. And obviously fighting someone like Nicholas Longate, we know Nico is a very aggressive driver. He was on better tyres. He was on newer tyres. So statistically, on paper, Nico should have been past him 5 laps earlier. But obviously, Kai kept himself calm and got the move done, and obviously on that final lap Nico had nothing to fight against, because I think Nico probably hit drop off as well, so he also would have slowed it down on those last couple of laps.
Yeah, it was great stuff from start to finish from all of these guys. Let's jump over to the view screen now, and let's just have a little look, see if anyone is in the waiting room. We can drag them in. Doesn't look like it at the minute. We'll hold off just to make sure they have a chance to join the lobby. So tell you what I'll do, I'll bring us back over to the internet scene. Then we will whoopsie
You done, Dan?
there we go. I hope there wasn't any swear words on the screen, but I forgot to go full camera mode. It's been a while since I've streamed, to be fair to me, but yeah, apologies if there was any foul language on your screen. I think Thomas Ronhard might have said GG, so nice to see a little bit of fair play between the pair of them. Do want to touch on that actually, Nathan, because Thomas and Barry, I think they had an altercation at some point. And then on the line, I saw that Barry got through on Thomas Ronhart. I think that was an intentional move from Thomas to allow for Barry to go through. A little bit of sportsmanship between the pair of them.
It's nice to see, isn't it? I think it's a brilliant thing to see. But then again, I suppose they're going to be a little bit more calm. If they make mistakes, I think they're more likely to open up to it because it's an invitational races. Nothing really special about it. They're just all joining up to have a bit of fun and have a nice race together. Some of them practiced it. Some of them probably did nothing in terms of practice. Maybe, maybe a couple of laps, which I think we saw evidently throughout that race. But I think it was good to see everyone kind of coming for a race and it become a little bit more chilled as well down our end as well, Dan. We're not going to worry about who's going to win the championship. We're going to worry about who's going to win the race.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I got to throw in a few references that I wanted to chuck in for the last few weeks. So I'm very happy. And the Greg sausage roll one, that was completely improvised. I had one today, so I was very, very happy with my purchase. And I just wanted to chuck it in there at one point. I'll drag us back over to the interview screen to see if there's anyone in the waiting room. It doesn't look like it. Nathan will give them until 9 p.m. GMT before we head off for this evening. But what else do we want to talk about? I mean, it was just a fun race throughout.
Well, what track would you like to see in the next race, Dan?
I don't really know. I mean, I want it to be one that we haven't gone to in a while. So I'm just trying to think because I just want to jog my memory. I might have a look at the calendar from last season just to see what tracks we didn't go to this season. Nathan, what about yourself?
It's a hard one because there's lots of nice tracks. It'd be nice to go somewhere we don't go too often. And something I don't know why we don't go here very often, but Spain.
Yeah, Spain could be fun. I think
we don't see Catalonia that much on this game, unfortunately, even though it's a better track than it was before.
Last time we were there, I think, was Jack West when he took victory, if I'm not mistaken.
Was it Jarno and Joseph, I think, in the wet?
Yeah, it was Joseph Loke in P2. And then Jan Ortner in P3. It was a fantastic Grand Prix. I think Jarno might have spun, actually, in that race. I think a really rare mistake from the Flying Dutchman. And that cost him. And maybe that was another Grand Prix at Spain. But yeah, I'm pretty sure no one is in the interview room at the minute. They got one more minute, Nathan, before we pull the plug and end off the stream. But it seems like we're not going to have anyone in for an interview here this evening. So I'll tell you what, I'll make sure I'm full screen on our cameras, and then I'll drag us back over to the intermission now to finish off this stream. It was a really fun Grand Prix from start to finish. We hope all of you enjoyed, and fingers crossed we're gonna get some more esports invitationals very, very soon. Let us know, everyone, in the live chat where you want to go next time, and maybe that could be in the discussions to maybe to head there soon. I think Mexico and Britain might be in the conversation because it's been a while since we've gone to those circuits. Hello.
Do we have time for an interview?
Do we have time for an interview? Of course we do. Let's bring us back over to the intermission scene and drag in Kai Pearson. What a race from you today, Kai. Let's talk about your qualifying though first.
Yeah, thank you. Qualifying, it was a good lap, to be honest. I don't know where I pulled that out from. But yeah, it was good enough for pole, just.
Yeah, I mean, it was very close at the front of the order, but you were one of the only drivers on a 1 minute point, I think a 0.5 by the end of it, so it was really well worked from yourself. But coming into this race, what was your strategy?
It was mainly to stay P1 and 2. I think, like, if you drop back, then it's quite hard to overtake because 1 and 2 just keep switching the whole race. So that was the plan. And then tried to help Ruben out a bit by boxing early. And then, just staying P1 and 2 throughout the race.
Yeah, absolutely. And then heading into the final few laps of the Grand Prix, you were fighting it out with Nicolas Longue, one of the most experienced F1 esports drivers on the grid. That's got to mean something there.
And it is good to finally fight these people on track. So it was pretty clean racing, a bit of wheel banging, but let's just race him.
Yeah, and I think it was a lot of fun to watch. Typically when we're in the main season, we don't see moves being made like that. But I want to highlight on your last move up the inside in towards turn number 1. I noted that you can just tell that you get extra hot on your Nando's order due to how spicy that move was. Can you confirm that to me?
No, I actually get medium.
Say what, that's an all right choice there. As long as
Yeah.
it's not lemon and herb or anything. But yeah, really
No,
well
no,
done. That's
no.
all from me. Nathan, anything you want to say?
No questions, but yet again, Kai, well done the P2, mate. Brilliant drive.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much then to Kai Pearson joining us in the interview room. We'll let you get away and enjoy that podium that he took. Gotta say, MVP of the Grand Prix. I'll say it once again. Incredible stuff from Kai Pearson to fight it out and be on the podium ahead of the likes of Nicolas Longue, Barry Burman, and Thomas Ronhaar.
Yeah, I think it was a brilliant race, especially from Khan. Obviously, all those involved as well. I think everyone in their own rights had good battles and results. Like obviously Jay and Yoris finishing, I think it was 11th and 12th, so good for them. To jump into Tier 1 and be ever so close to a top 10 finish, but obviously if we have more socials in the future, which I think we will do, we might see those guys yet again have another chance to try and prove that they can get into the top 10 for a Tier 1 race. But Dan, I think it was a brilliant Sunday evening. Qualify was close. The start of the race was a bit meh, but then we got through towards the end, and I think they really saved the battle until the end, didn't they?
Oh yeah, and that's what we want. We want the fight for the win right at the death of things, and that is exactly what we got. Stay tuned to WOR because there will be more esports invitational news, and you can find it first on the WOR Twitter. Make sure you follow us at WOR League and subscribe to the WOR YouTube channel. And leave a like on the stream whilst you're there. If you want to keep up to date with all your WOR news, you can check out the Discord. The link is in the description. If you want to follow myself on Twitter, it is at DanfieldF1_. And if you want to follow Nathan, it is RichieF1 with the I's replaced by ones. Thank you everyone once again so much for tuning in to our esports invitational at Zandvoort. We will hopefully see you in the next couple of weeks with another one very, very soon. But from us, that is everything. Thank you once again and good night.
It is the home of sim racing leagues. Our management tools allow you to recruit drivers and monitor their ratings and live splits. Find this and more at gridfinder.com. Sign up for free.